Celestial Immortal Clan. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 651 Black Lotus Hidden Tower. So it is conceivable that it is not easy to find them on the seabed, not to mention that they have to be dealt with in the sea. However, underwater fighting is not what Lin Changqing is good at, so he is now considering whether there is any way to lure the mission target to the sea surface. But just as he was thinking, Chuai suddenly sent a warning, meaning that there were 3 monks in black clothes, rushing over from behind at high speed. Lin Changqing quickly turned around and took a look. Indeed, there were 3 black flying over 10 miles away. He hurriedly communicated with Chuai and Chuer, slightly adjusted the direction, and gave them away. Normally, the two sides should be about 2 miles apart and pass by each other, so that each other can avoid trouble. However, the intentions of these 3 people are too obvious. They are coming for Lin Changqing. Because he asked Chuai to adjust the direction, the 3 people also adjusted it together, so there is no need to say more about this meaning. Lin Changqing didn't think much and immediately released the 88 purple crystal scorpions from the spirit beast bracelet. But he didn't let them fly out immediately, but all landed on Chuai's back, and then disappeared directly. Since he confirmed that the person was coming for him, Lin Changqing didn't plan to hide, and communicated with Chuai and Chuer to let them slow down a little. Then he mobilized the thunder magic power again and began to prepare. The other party soon approached to a distance of about 4 miles. But Lin Changqing held back and planned to give them a combination of divine thunder first, for fear of alerting the snakes and scaring them away. Although he didn't make a move, Lin Changqing had already sensed the cultivation of the 3 men in black. All of them were cultivators who had reached the great perfection of foundation building. After waiting for a while, the distance between the 2 sides was shortened to 2 miles. At this time, there was no misunderstanding, because they were coming straight at Lin Changqing. So he moved his mind, and the 88 purple lights immediately divided into 3 groups, each rushing towards the target. And the combination of thunder magic he had prepared long ago, the Jinlin water mine, also flew out immediately after locking the target. The distance of 2 miles was too close. The Jinlin mines arrived in an instant. Boom, there was a loud bang. The black-clothed man in the middle was directly blasted into a ball of blood mist. This sudden change scared the other 2 people, and they immediately turned their flying swords with all their strength, wanting to leave here. But at this time, the purple crystal scorpion also approached them. The speed of these little guys was very fast. The distance of more than 1 mile was reached in the blink of an eye, and now there were only 2 enemies. So each of them endured more than 40 purple light rays, and all the defenses prepared on their bodies were broken. Then the shrill screams resounded throughout the sea. In fact, from the beginning to the end, it took less than 30 breaths in total, and the enemy was solved. But Lin Changqing was very curious. The outfits of these 3 people were a bit strange. They were all black all over, and as soon as they appeared, they came directly to him. So Lin Changqing had 2 guesses in his mind. Either they were robbery cultivators, and meeting him was just a coincidence. Or someone didn't like him and wanted to do something to him, so he issued a task to reward him. In order to prove whether his guess was right, Lin Changqing immediately went over and salvaged the 3 storage bags from the 3 men in black. The amethyst scorpion was very smart and helped Lin Changqing salvage several spiritual tools that fell into the sea. Lin Changqing himself checked the 2 relatively complete bodies, but did not find anything on them that could prove their identity. So he thought about it and used an empty storage bag to collect the 2 complete bodies and the body fragments that could be found. Then he recalled all the amethyst scorpions, sat back on Chuai's back, and quickly left the sea. After flying for a distance, he found that everything was calm and no more men in black were found. Lin Changqing began to work on the 3 storage bags he had just obtained, and soon they were all completed. But he found that the contents of the 3 storage bags were very few, and it could even be said that there was no extra debris. The contents were also very similar, all of which stored 100 medium-grade spiritual stones, 3 bottles of elixirs, and 6 high-grade spiritual tools prepared by each person. What was left was a few miscellaneous items, but 3 strange identity jade cards were found. On the front of the jade card was a black lotus with a word hidden engraved in the center of the lotus, and on the back was a string of 6-digit numbers. There was nothing else. The 3 body jade cards were just different in number, and the rest were similar. Seeing this, Lin Changqing already knew what was going on. He had seen the introduction of the Black Lotus Hidden Tower in the Sect Sutra Pavilion. He knew that they were a very specialized assassin organization that had been entrenched in this world for tens of thousands of years. And the strength of this Black Lotus Hidden Tower was also very strong. Now that he knew that they had accepted the mission and came to hunt him down, Lin Changqing knew that he was in trouble. Because according to their regulations, when the first batch of assassins failed, another batch of assassins with higher cultivation would be sent out to carry out the second mission. But if they failed again, they would terminate the mission and return the reward for the mission to the person who issued the mission. However, the 3 assassins who came to hunt Lin Changqing this time were the ones who had reached the great perfection of the Foundation establishment, so according to their regulations, the next assassin should be a Purple Mansion assassin, but I don't know if it will be 1 or 3. If it is 3, then he will be in big trouble, because if they attack together, Lin Changqing will most likely not be able to withstand it. Thinking of this, he almost wanted to turn around and return to the sect, but he thought that he couldn't do that. At least he had to complete the 3 tasks at hand before returning to the sect, but he couldn't go on the road without any preparation. So Lin Changqing immediately took off the clothes of the inner disciple of Xianshu sect. He changed into a set of ordinary clothes without any markings, and directly turned into a casual cultivator. Then he compressed his cultivation to the middle stage of foundation building through the secret art of hidden spirit. And then put on the only remaining hidden spirit mask. After doing all this, he seemed to have changed into a different person. Then he summoned Shui and Shuer back, and changed to use the Yimu Yinlai sword to hurry on. In this way, the speed increased by 3 or 4 times at once, and it should be safe for the time being. Chapter 652, Sun and Moon Wide. Now he was afraid that the killers had already known his mission area. Then they couldn't find his people, and finally went to his mission area in advance to block Lin Changqing, which would be even more troublesome. But now, he had no choice but to take one step at a time. I just hope that their reaction speed is not so fast, so as to give him some time. Suddenly, he thought that he had the things of the Black Lotus Hidden Tower in his hands, which might be tracked by the special spiritual tools of the Hidden Tower. So he quickly took them all out, including the storage bag containing the corpse, and then used the Great 5 Elements Return to the Ruins technique to annihilate all these things. It was guaranteed that no trace would be left, and no one could track him through these things. And this matter was very obvious, and Lin Changqing had already guessed who wanted his life. In Xianshu sect, there were only 2 people who had a grudge against him. One was the man surnamed Zhao in the General Affairs Hall, and the other was the horse-faced Wei Changjin. Although Lin Changqing and the man surnamed Zhao had a falling out, they did not really have any hatred between them, so it was not to the extent of wanting his life. Then the only person who might do this is Wei Changjin. So Lin Changqing has already sentenced him to death in his heart. After this incident, he must find an opportunity to kill the man surnamed Wei. Otherwise keeping this poisonous snake will cause trouble in the future. As for the fact that his father is a giant and cultivator, he can't care so much. Anyway, when the time comes, if he wants to kill the man surnamed Wei, he will definitely have an alibi. There's only so much that can be done. I believe that Wei Changjin practices the method of collecting yin to replenish yang, and blatantly uses women to practice. Then his enemies must be more than 1 or 2, so it is not so strange if he is killed outside. However, when Lin Changqing thought that someone might block him in advance, he couldn't help but have a headache. But he suddenly had an idea that he could completely disrupt the order to complete these tasks. Normally, the order of executing tasks is either from far to near, or from near to far. He could have chosen the task in the middle first, so that the chance of being blocked would be smaller. The more he thought about it, the more it made sense, so he quickly adjusted his direction and prepared to set off for another task location. This task location was relatively far away. Even if he used the Yimu Yinlai sword with all his strength, it would take 5 or 6 days of rapid flight. This task was in the southwest of Gishan Island, about 28,000 miles of sea. The target of the task was a second-level monster called Xingxun Turtle. The task requirement this time was to obtain at least 2 tortoise shells and demon pills of the second-level late-stage Great Perfection Xingxun Turtle. The good news is that this kind of monster often floats to the surface of the sea at night, absorbs the scattered star power, and practices. So it is relatively easy for Lin Changqing to hunt them. As long as he can find them successfully, he will basically not miss. In this way, Lin Changqing rushed for 5 or 6 days in a row with high intensity, and finally arrived at Gishan Island. The scale of this island is still very large, but its overall image is like a turtle with its neck stretched out. So it is named Gishan Island. This is under the direct management of Xianshu sect, so there is a small market on the island. Many monks from nearby islands will come to Gishan Island to trade spiritual objects. So after Lin Changqing arrived, he went directly to Gishan Market and found a hotel to stay. In the past few days, although he would release the spirit boat every night and use it as a temporary foothold, but he didn't dare to rest at ease every day, for fear of being attacked by the assassins of the hidden building. So in fact, Lin Changqing didn't rest too well along the way. This time, as soon as he entered the hotel, he stayed for a day and a night before coming out. Then he strolled around Gishan Market with full spirit. Although this is just a small market, Lin Changqing met many monks along the way. Among them, they are mainly monks in the key refining and foundation building stages, and a small number are monks in the purple mansion stage. For this part of the monks, Lin Changqing is the most concerned. Although this is a small market, it is small but complete, with all kinds of shops, but there are many of them. Among them, the largest and most impressive one is the Shenshu Pavilion, a shop run by Xianshu sect. So Lin Changqing's first choice was the shop of his own sect. After all, it is better to keep the money in the family. As soon as he walked in, a young man came up and greeted him. "Welcome to Shenshu Pavilion, Senior. Do you need anything?" Lin Changqing nodded. He did not want to show his body as an inner disciple of Xianshu sect. He just said lightly, "Do you have any better second-level spiritual wine here in Shenshu Pavilion?" The young man hurriedly said, Yes. We have 2 kinds of second-level spiritual wine here, which should be more suitable for the senior's choice. Please go inside to have tea. I will introduce it to you in detail." Lin Changqing nodded and motioned him to lead the way, so the 2 came to a small box. After they sat down, a maid immediately served 2 cups of spiritual tea. After all, it was his own sex shop, so Lin Changqing was more relieved, so he picked up the spiritual tea and drank it directly. Then the young man took the initiative to say, "Senior, we are cooperating with the one family of Linquan Island, but we have 2 very good second-level spiritual wines. One is the 100 Beasts Blood Wine, which is brewed with the blood of dozens or hundreds of second-level monsters as the main ingredients. It has the effect of promoting menstruation, activating blood circulation and strengthening yang. Each pot is about 1 kati, and it costs 1,500 low-grade spiritual stones to buy a pot. The other is the more precious Sun and Moon Tongue wine, the main ingredients of which are the second-level Mingguang fish, as well as the demon pale and blood of the second-level Moonlight eel. The brewed spiritual wine has the effect of adjusting yin and yang, balancing spiritual energy, and improving cultivation. It costs 2,200 low-grade spiritual stones to buy a pot. Senior, which kind of spiritual wine do you like? I'll go get it for you." Lin Changqing was also a little stunned when he heard it. He didn't expect that the second-level spiritual wine was so expensive. The price the young man said was close to the price of a low-grade spiritual weapon. However, he was too embarrassed to buy the first-grade spirit wine for the old drunkard. So after thinking about it, he reluctantly said, "Then please give me 3 pots of each." Chapter 653, The Dance of the Divine Cicadas. After hearing this, the young man quickly agreed, and then left quickly to prepare spiritual wine for Lin Changqing. After a while, he came over with a tray and 6 pots of spiritual wine. When he put the things on the table, Lin Changqing unceremoniously opened the lid of the pot and checked it. He used his spiritual sense to sense it again, and it was indeed a second-level spiritual wine. Lin Changqing found that the 100 Beasts Blood wine was dark red, and there was a faint smell of blood in the aroma of the wine. I don't know if the old drunkard can get used to it. Another kind of Sun and Moon Tongue wine is much more normal. The color is very clear and bright, just like water, and there is no other peculiar smell. The aroma of this spiritual wine is very mellow, and Lin Changqing feels that he can also taste it. After checking all the spiritual wines and finding no problems, Lin Changqing poured more than 11,000 spiritual stones on the table, and the young man counted them himself. After the clerk to put away the spiritual stones, he asked, "Senior, we have a lot of spiritual objects here. Do you need anything else?" Lin Changqing was moved when he heard this. It seemed that this place was not far from Rainbow Island. Maybe someone would really bring the poison sacks of golden-ringed white-spotted sea snakes to sell here. So he asked again, Then please help me see if you have any poison sacs of golden-ringed white-spotted sea snakes here. If so, I want a larger number. At least 10, but the venom in the sacs must be full to meet my requirements." When the clerk heard this, he quickly said, "I seem to remember that there really is such a thing. Please wait a moment, I will check it for you." After that, he left in a hurry. After Lin Changqing put away the things he bought, he drank the spiritual tea and waited slowly. After a while, the young man came back and said to Lin Changqing, "Senior, I checked the things you mentioned. We do have these things here, but they are what a senior in the sect needs. So if I embezzle them privately, the price may be a little bit higher. I wonder if you can accept it." At this time, as long as the price is not too outrageous, he feels that he can still accept it. After all, his safety is the most important. So he said, "Then can you tell me how expensive it is?" The young man looked at him and said, "Each venom sac of the golden ring white sea snake requires 4,000 low-grade spirit stones, senior." You see, when Lin Changqing heard this, he also felt that the price was outrageous. After all, he completed this task, and the sect only gave him 4,000 contribution points. According to the sect's calculation method, it is only equivalent to about 20,000 low-grade spirit stones. But if Lin Changqing buys it here, he will need to spend 40,000 low-grade spirit stones. It is equivalent to losing half of it, but fortunately, he can still accept it. The party lost is considered as the Black Lotus Hidden Tower paying for him. After all, although the other things were destroyed by him, he left behind 300 middle-grade spirit stones, which just filled his hole. Then Lin Changqing said, "Okay, I know, I can still accept this price. I want 10 golden ring white spotted sea snake venom sacs now, and these are spirit stones. Please help me get the things." After that, he paid 40,000 spirit stones directly. After the young man counted them clearly, he smiled and went down to prepare what Lin Changqing needed. Soon, the young man sent 10 small jade boxes over. Lin Changqing checked them one by one, and after confirming that there was no problem, he put all the things away. Then after saying goodbye, he left the Shenshu pavilion. He didn't expect that this time he came out to stroll around, and there would be such an unexpected gain. He spent some time to visit all the places he was interested in, but this time, there was no other gain. Then he left Gishan Market. This time should be just right to rush over. Because the target this time is the star turtle, the characteristic of this kind of monster is that it will only surface at night to absorb starlight for cultivation. When Lin Changqing arrived at the target sea area, the sky had completely darkened, but it was not so easy to find the star turtle that surfaced in such a large sea area. It still requires a little luck, but Lin Changqing also has a way. With a thought, more than 200 god-shaking cicadas flew out of the spirit beast bracelet, and then they spread out in all directions. Although their flying speed is not fast, but now there is no time, so let them help to find the star turtle. As for the purple crystal scorpion, because it will emit purple light when flying, forget about them, so as not to alert the enemy, but to do more harm to Lin Changqing. Moreover, he himself was not idle, and he also controlled the Yimu Yinlai sword and quickly passed through the air, while his consciousness was constantly searching on the sea surface. He kept searching like this, and after more than 2 hours, he finally received feedback from a god-shaking cicada. He immediately sensed the direction and followed the guidance of the contract. However, when he was about to get close to the destination, he took out the light sand magic weapon and put it on himself, and finally slowly approached. Sure enough, soon, his spiritual sense swept over the sea, and there were more than a dozen turtle-shaped monsters of different sizes. The big ones were nearly 2 feet in size, and the small ones were more than 10 feet. They all stretched their heads straight, as if absorbing something in the air. After a closer look, he found that there were indeed some dots of starlight on their shells. Lin Changqing knew that he had not found the wrong target. So he made a prompt decision and immediately retreated 20 or 30 miles carefully, and then summoned back all the released Jingshan cicadas through the contract. If you want to keep their shells intact without damaging them, the best choice is to use the Jingshan cicadas Jingshan technique. So Lin Changqing needs to summon them all back and let them all ire on him. After arranging their positions, he put the light gauze magic weapon on himself, which is perfect. After confirming that there was no problem, Lin Changqing sneaked over again. When he got closer, he found that there were a total of 12 star turtles. Although they were all second level, there were only 2 of them, which met the requirements of the task, but this was already very good. At least if it succeeded, the task would be completed directly, and there would be no need to waste time here. It took almost an hour to slowly touch them. After confirming that there was nothing missing, he lifted the light gauze magic weapon draped over his body. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 654 Three-Pointed Squid. Instantly, the sky was full of flying cicadas, and the whole sea area was immediately filled with continuous ZHI sounds. The star-shaped turtles on the sea surface also reacted quickly. Basically, each star-shaped turtle instantly formed one or two layers of beautiful starlight shields. Unfortunately, this starlight shield did not have much defensive power against the shocking magic, so all the star-shaped turtles rolled painfully on the sea surface. Some even wanted to take advantage of the situation and dive back into the sea, but unfortunately it was too late. After 10 breaths, the sea surface returned to calm. Lin Changqing immediately went down and put their bodies into the spirit beast bracelet. There were 12 star-shaped turtles, and none of them escaped. Now he was in a good mood. With the help of the shocking cicadas, it can be said that it was quite smooth. There were a total of 12 star-shaped turtles here. In addition to the 2 used to hands in the task, the remaining 10 were estimated to bring him an income of 70,000 to 80,000 spirit stones after processing. This was already quite good, and the monster meat on them could also be used to feed spirit insects and spirit pets. After completing the task, Lin Changqing wanted to find a place to release the spirit boat as a resting place, but then he thought that there were many treasures in the sea. In addition, he had just eliminated the star turtle that was entrenched here, so he could go down to the sea to explore. So, after recalling all the shocking cicadas to the spirit beast bracelet, he plunged into the sea and used the water escape technique to drill to the bottom of the sea. Unfortunately, the sea was even darker, but fortunately, there were some glowstones in his spirit beast bracelet, which he could take out and use. Moreover, in the water, the spiritual consciousness was also subject to certain restrictions. So after searching for more than an hour, except for finding a dozen first-level water-attributed spiritual medicines, there were no other major gains. But these first-level spiritual herbs are not of much use to him now. Lin Changqing also did not find the nests of the star turtles. Originally, according to his expectations, at least some spiritual objects could be found in their nests, but he did not expect to find them after searching for so long. I don't know where the entrance to their cave is. Finally, after wasting 2 hours, he had to give up the underwater treasure hunt. After leaving the sea, it was only more than an hour before dawn, so he simply didn't let the spirit boat out. After identifying the approximate direction, he flew to the last destination. This was the last mission he made up. The target of this mission was still quite far from here. It is estimated that even if he controls the 3rd-level magic sword, it will take about 3 days. So on the way, Lin Changqing found an uninhabited island and took out the 12 star turtles he harvested and processed them first. In fact, after the death of the monsters, their inner elixirs must be taken out earlier, otherwise a lot of spiritual energy will be lost over time. So Lin Changqing still had to deal with these things first, which took him about half a day. Fortunately, now there is only one last mission left, and Lin Changqing is not under so much pressure. After the direction is accurate, he continued to fly. After 3 days, he finally arrived at the destination sea area. The target of this mission is a 2nd-level monster called Three-Pointed Squid in the sea. The spiritual object they want to obtain is the ink sac on their bodies. Their ink sac is the favorite of spiritual talisman masters. It is said that after being made into spiritual ink, it can be used to draw a small sky-covering talisman. What is the specific use of this sky-covering talisman, Lin Changqing does not know. However, this mission requires at least 5 relatively full ink sacs to be brought back, but according to the prompts of the mission scroll, this monster called Three-Pointed Squid is basically impossible to appear on the sea surface by itself, so if you want to get their ink sacs, the only choice is to dive into the sea to find them. Originally, Lin Changqing did not intend to take such a time-consuming and laborious task. It was just that one of the selected tasks was taken by someone else in advance, so he had to take this task. In this way, after confirming the sea area where they might exist, Lin Changqing began to use the water escape technique to search back and forth in this area. But this time his luck was not so good. He had been searching for almost 10 days, but he didn't find any ghosts. Finally, they had to expand the search area, and finally found their figures in a place more than 20,000 miles away. But it is not known whether Lin Changqing was lucky or unlucky, because he found a large group. The number was at least more than 300. This kind of three-pointed squid has a characteristic. As long as they feel danger, they will spray out a kind of black thick ink, and soon the whole area will be polluted by this thick ink. Even the spiritual consciousness of the cultivators cannot penetrate this thick ink. As long as they enter the thick ink, they will soon become blind and deaf. But the three-pointed squid itself is not affected by this thick ink and can move freely in it. They will even use the 3 sharp horns on their heads to hit the enemies in the thick ink. It can be imagined that if Lin Changqing was trapped in this thick ink and attacked by more than 300 second-level monsters, even if he was a third-level body cultivator, he would not be able to withstand it. Although Lin Changqing has Kishu Yinli, which can be used in water, there is absolutely no way to get rid of so many second-level three-pointed squids. So the only way now is to see if there is any way. See if you can attract the attention of a small part of the three-pointed squid and let them leave the group for a while. In this way, he will have a chance to make a move, but he has tried several times and failed. Because no matter whether it is the blood of the monster or the meat of the monster, it has no great effect on them. It seems that it has no attraction to them, which makes Lin Changqing headache to death, and even thinks about whether to give up this task. In the end, Lin Changqing can only think of a very helpless method. That is to prepare 2 Kishu Yinli every time, and then Lin Changqing will fire the Yinli as far away from them as possible. After the shot, don't look at the result, and don't care about anything, just rush to the sea surface immediately, so that it is not easy to be trapped in the thick ink. But whether you can get the spoils in the end depends on luck. Because it is not that every time you go back to look for it, you can find the body of the three-pointed squid. Anyway, after entangled for 7 or 8 days, Lin Changqing finally managed to get 5 ink sacks that can be handed in for the task. Chapter 655 Encounter. Knowing that he could hand in the task, Lin Changqing immediately left the sea area without hesitation. He really didn't want to deal with this kind of monster again in the future. It was too troublesome. And he also found a phenomenon. If you accidentally get those thick ink on your body, it would be a very troublesome thing. You need to constantly use mana to refine it, otherwise your body will be black and yellow. So after confirming that the ink sacks you got were enough to hand in the task, he chose to leave here as soon as possible. Of course, it was also because he had stayed here for a long enough time and was worried that the people from the Black Lotus Hidden Tower would come here to find him. And now, all the task items required for the 3 tasks are in his hands, so he doesn't want to delay outside. So he identified the direction of Xianshu sect and began to fly on the sword. He wanted to try to return to the sect as soon as possible, so that it would be safer. But sometimes, what you fear will come. In the direction of his return, 3 black dots suddenly appeared. Lin Changqing's spiritual sense swept, and it was 3 killers in black clothes, the Black Lotus Hidden Tower, and at this time, they also found him. And they reacted very quickly. The 3 of them had already dispersed and pulled away from each other to outflank him from 3 directions. Seeing them like this, Lin Changqing knew that he must have been exposed. But until now, he still didn't know how he was exposed. But since the situation is already like this, he can only face it positively. But it's not okay to bear it hard at this time. They must have a lot of attack magic weapons in their hands. As long as he gets hit a few times, he will definitely die. So he turned the flying sword around without hesitation and ran back. And at this time, Lin Changqing was very calm instead. He began to multitask, mobilizing the chaotic magic power in his body, through the magical seed in his danshan. After a while, a big 5 return to the ruins technique was generated, and it was mixed in a palm thunder. But Lin Changqing did not launch it immediately, but mobilized the thunder magic power again, and poured it into the corresponding spiritual tools and magic weapons, and began to condense a golden mine. At this time, Lin Changqing found in his consciousness that there were 6 magic flying swords, flying towards him rapidly. Since they have entered the range of the divine consciousness, he will not be polite. He turned around and fired the palm thunder with the added version in his hand at the killer in the middle. The target of the other Jinlin water mine is the monk on the left. Thunder magic is swift. The 6 flying swords of the killers are still halfway, and Lin Changqing's 2 thunder magics have already hit the target first. Boom, boom, two obviously different thunder sounds, but they hit the target at almost the same time. The killer who was hit by the Great Five Return to the Ruins technique seemed to have a defensive magic weapon shattered on his head. And not only that, his body fell directly from the flying sword into the sea. And the two flying swords he controlled, after flying a distance in a zigzag manner, suddenly lost control, shrank and fell directly into the sea, and disappeared in an instant. In this way, the man was most likely killed by the Great Five Return to the Ruins technique in one blow. After all, Lin Changqing is now a 9th level cultivator. The chaotic mana in Danshan is several times more than before, so he doesn't find it strange that it has this power now. But the power of the Jinlin mine is just a little bit short. The killer who was hit by the mine only had his defensive magic weapon blown away, and his body shook twice on the flying sword and returned to normal. At this time, 2 of the remaining 4 flying swords hit Lin Changqing first, but only destroyed his 4 outermost defensive spiritual weapons. In the end, it was blocked by the defensive magic weapon, the Thunder Golden Light Shield, but Lin Changqing knew that the situation was not favorable for him now. So he simply followed the impact and plunged into the sea. After entering the sea, he immediately performed the water escape technique and rushed to the bottom of the sea. And in the deepest place, he found a suitable place to hide, and put on the light gauze magic weapon for himself. Only then did he temporarily breathe a sigh of relief. Then he didn't dare to delay time, and quickly swallowed 2 healing pills, holding several medium-grade spirit stones in one hand, and was desperately recovering the chaotic mana. Moreover, at this time, Lin Changqing could also feel that there should be a killer in the Purple Mansion period who also chased into the sea. So there was no other way. For the sake of safety, Lin Changqing mobilized the thunder magic power again and began to condense the Kishu Yin Lei. There was no choice. Now in the water, he only had this thunder method to use. However, if the killer couldn't find him, he would not casually attack. In this way, the killer searched for a long time in the area where Lin Changqing was hiding. After not finding him, he expanded the scope of the search. Seeing this result, Lin Changqing was a little relieved, but he was still desperately recovering the chaos magic power. In this situation, only the Great 5 Giksa technique can kill with one blow. Because he had to get rid of at least one more killer, he might be able to survive this crisis, or even complete a Jedi counterattack. Just like this, he was tormented every minute and second, and finally half an hour passed, and he finally recovered 90% of the chaos magic power. Just at this time, Lin Changqing felt that the killer in the sea had come back again. Since that was the case, he would not wait any longer. He mobilized all the chaotic mana and generated a Great 5 Giksa technique. It was mixed in the already formed Kishu Yinli. When his consciousness locked onto the killer, he immediately fired it without hesitation. The enhanced Kishu Yinli moved at high speed in the water, forming a straight white waterline. Therefore, at this time, the killer also discovered him, because the consciousness was in the sea, and the detection range was compressed. Therefore, the actual distance between the two sides was about 2 miles apart, so the killer's 2 magic flying swords also rushed towards him. Although he was now wearing the light sand magic weapon, others could not see him, but when he made a move just now, the straight white waterline exposed his location. Therefore, the killer could successfully capture his position, but that was all he could do. Because even in the water, the thunder method was still faster than the killer's 2 flying swords. Boom! A dull thunder sound came from the sea. Lin Changqing used his spiritual sense to see that the killer's chest had been annihilated by the Great 5 Elements Giksa technique, leaving a hole as big as a head, but he did not die immediately. Chapter 656, Jedi Counterattack. Instead, he forced himself to hold on with his last breath, controlling the 2 flying swords and continuing to attack Lin Changqing. Lin Changqing knew that he would not be able to dodge in the water, so he could only desperately activate the 2 top-grade defensive spiritual tools. He also used the Thunder Golden Light Shield, which had been a little damaged, to support himself. Soon after the 2 sounds of spiritual tools breaking, there were 2 more bang-bang collisions. Then the 2 flying swords fell directly in front of Lin Changqing. At this time, he used his spiritual sense to scan and found that the killer had completely died, and he finally breathed a sigh of relief. Then he quickly picked up the 2 flying swords under his feet and put them in the spiritual beast bracelet. Then Lin Changqing went to the killer again and collected his storage bag, some messy things, including his body. Then he changed to another place and continued to restore his chaotic mana. Now he felt much more at ease. And he has confirmed two things. The first thing is that the killer in the middle just now must be dead. Because he used 99% of his chaos mana to perform the first great 5 elements Giksa technique. In addition, the killer at the beginning must not have such a strong defensive mentality, so he was definitely killed in one blow. The second thing is that he is now 90% sure that he can safely survive this crisis. If the remaining killer on the sea surface does not know that his accomplice in the sea has been killed by him, then maybe Lin Changqing really has the possibility to complete a Jedi counterattack. Now I don't know if there are any communication tools between these killers. If not, the chance of a Jedi counterattack is still very high. But now, Lin Changqing dare not float to the surface of the sea casually, because all his defensive spiritual tools have been consumed again. Only one side is left, which is more seriously damaged. So just in case, he must be fully prepared before he dares to surface. After all, he only has one life, and it is not too cautious. So in this way, Lin Changqing stayed on the seabed for almost an hour, waiting for all the chaos mana to be restored. He converted his mana into palm thunder mixed with a great 5 elements return to the ruins technique, and prepared a Jinlan sea mine. Even so, he did not dare to rush directly to the sea surface, and used the water escape technique to move forward nearly 10 miles. Then he rushed out of the sea. As soon as he came out, his spiritual consciousness immediately began to sweep the surroundings with all his strength. He wanted to find the last killer, but unfortunately, there was no one within the range of his spiritual consciousness, so he immediately released Shui and Chur, and let them fly as high as possible, so as not to be discovered and killed by the last killer. And he himself, wearing a light gauze magic weapon, wandered in the nearby sea. Soon, Lin Changqing received Chui's warning, and he immediately turned around and chased after him. In fact, the distance between the two sides was not too far, only about 30 or 40 miles, so it took a while. Lin Changqing had already locked him in his spiritual consciousness, without any hesitation, and the Jinlan sea mine and the great 5 elements return to the ruins technique were launched one after another at an interval of 2 breaths. Boom, boom, soon. 2 different thunderous sounds came. Lin Changqing saw in his consciousness that the Jinlan mine first blew away a defensive magic weapon. Then 2 breaths later, the palm thunder mixed with a great 5 elements Giksa technique directly shattered the killer's other defensive magic weapon. Then the remaining power fell on him and annihilated a huge hole in his chest. Moreover, at this time, Lin Changqing's consciousness could even see that the flesh and blood near the huge wound were shrinking and annihilating rapidly. After a while, this change finally stopped. It should be that the energy of that attack was completely exhausted. At this time, Lin Changqing was very sure that the last killer must have died. So without any hesitation, he immediately rushed over and prepared to start collecting the spoils. He saw clearly that the killer should have a defensive magic weapon that was blown away by his Jinlan mine, and he didn't know if he could find it. What he lacked most now was a spiritual weapon or magic weapon for defense. He searched the killer's storage bag as soon as possible, but he didn't expect that at this time. He thought the killer was dead, but a black light suddenly appeared between his eyebrows and hit Lin Changqing's face. The two were too close to each other, and there was no way to avoid it, so the black light rushed directly into his sea of consciousness. Lin Changqing was shocked for a moment, but he reacted quickly and couldn't help laughing again. He has the Yushin Soul Protection Shield in his sea of consciousness, so he is not afraid of others taking over his body. Those who dare to enter the sea of consciousness to take over his body will eventually become the nutrients for his soul to improve, so he has nothing to be afraid of. However, for safety reasons, he quickly released a spirit boat and released all the Jingshan cicadas and purple crystal scorpions to protect him around. Then he sat cross-legged and looked inward, and soon Lin Changqing found the black light that had shrunk many times in his sea of consciousness. At this time, the unlucky guy who entered his sea of consciousness was being covered by the Yushin Soul Protection Shield. He was desperately calling for help inside, but unfortunately Lin Changqing ignored him. He just watched him quietly until he was completely refined into nothingness by the Yushin Soul Shield. Then a pure spiritual energy fell on Lin Changqing's soul, making him feel extremely comfortable. Then, he fell into deep sleep without knowing it. When Lin Changqing woke up again, it was already the next morning. He quickly checked his whole body and confirmed that there was no problem. He released his consciousness with all his strength and found that he could detect a distance of a little more than 5 miles. He couldn't help but feel overjoyed. He didn't expect that this time he would get such an unexpected gain from a disaster. After testing for a while, until he was fully adapted, he went into the sea and dived to the bottom of the sea. But he didn't forget that he still had his trophies on the bottom of the sea. You know, the last killer at that time was controlling a magic flying sword under his feet, and there were 2 flying swords around him, ready to attack him at any time. In addition to the defensive magic weapon that he had knocked away, there were now a total of 4 magic weapons on the seabed nearby. So Lin Changqing had to come down to look for them. Otherwise all these things would be wasted. Fortunately, he quickly released the spirit boat at that time, so the difference in position was not too big. Chapter 657, Soul Out of Body. Therefore, he only spent most of the day to find all 4 magic weapons. Now, the fortunes of 2 of the 3 killers are in Lin Changqing's hands, but at this time, Lin Changqing is not in a hurry, because according to the regulations of the Black Lotus Hidden Tower, they will return the spirit stones for this bounty to the person who issued the task. And in a short period of time, they will not accept any more bounty tasks about him. If the person who issued the task still wants to continue to bounty him, then he must first compensate the losses of the Black Lotus Hidden Tower. Then it is possible to continue to issue tasks at the Black Lotus Hidden Tower. Lin Changqing believes that even if Wei Changzheng's father is a 4th-level alchemist, he can usually make some money. But Wei Changzheng can't be so easy to take out and compensate the large amount of spirit stones lost by the Black Lotus Hidden Tower. So Lin Changqing thinks that even if he returns to the sect later, there should be no big problem. So he spent another 2 days searching the nearby sea area and found the body of the first killer and his 3 lost magic flying swords. At this time, Lin Changqing was finally satisfied, and he embarked on the journey back to the sect. However, along the way, he had been thinking about 2 things. The first thing was how he was exposed. Finally, after thinking about it, he thought of a possibility, that is, he controlled the Yinli sword, and the people of the Black Lotus Hidden Tower definitely knew that he had thunder spiritual roots. Moreover, there are so few cultivators with thunder spiritual roots in the world of cultivation, and Lin Changqing happened to appear in the mission area at this time. So basically it is almost certain, so he was directly locked by the people of the Black Lotus. After thinking it through, he realized that this time, he was really smart and made a mistake. Fortunately, his luck and strength are still good, and now these things have been temporarily over. His main goal is to do everything he can to kill Wei Changzheng, the bastard. The second thing is about the last killer. This time, he suddenly lost his soul and wanted to take over Lin Changqing's body. Fortunately, he had the Yushin soul shield, but this also reminded him. Why are Purple Mansion monks called Purple Mansion? It's because they have begun to cultivate and nourish their souls. That is to say, Purple Mansion monks have already initially acquired the ability of souls to leave their bodies, and with the strength of their souls, they can already take over other people's bodies. In other words, it is possible that the enemy's physical body is destroyed, but his soul may still escape. So Lin Changqing has to pay attention to this matter in the future. Killing a 3rd-level monster is easy to say, the soul will run away. But if it is a monk, it is possible that it is equivalent to letting the tiger go back to the mountain. Of course, in general, the soul of a Purple Mansion monk is still relatively fragile. If it is exposed to nature for a long time, especially in a place with sunlight, it will soon die. So even if the soul escapes, it must find a suitable target to take over in a short time. Otherwise, it faces the fate of gradual extinction. But it is better not to gamble on this probability, so Lin Changqing warned himself that he must pay attention to this aspect in the future. Since he knew it was the Yinli sword, which exposed his identity, he would definitely not use it again. So he changed his foot to top-grade spiritual weapon flying sword. Although the speed was 3 or 4 times slower, he had already completed the task, so he didn't have to rush. And on the way back, whenever he encountered a relatively large island, he would go down to take a look. Unfortunately, not every island has a market, and some even don't allow strange monks to approach casually. So along the way, in addition to finding 2 more spiritual wines for the old drunkard, there was not much other gain. Of course, it is also possible that he didn't encounter any good things because he stayed too short. However, Lin Changqing has counted the spoils of this time. A total of 1,500 medium-grade spiritual stones and a used water-based high-grade spiritual stone were harvested. But fortunately, they were not used much. This was found by Lin Changqing on the killer in the sea, which happened to be cheap for him. In the future, when he needs to restore mana in a battle, he will have high-grade spiritual stones to use. As for the elixirs, he didn't get much, less than 20 bottles in total, 9 of which were elixirs for improving his cultivation. The rest were for restoring mana and healing injuries. In short, he might need these things in the future. So he collected them in different categories. After all, he didn't have many red fruits on him, and it was very likely that he would only be able to use these ordinary elixirs in the future. The next thing was the magic weapons, which could be said to be a great harvest. He got a total of 10 flying swords of various types of the third order. The 5 elements of gold, wood, water, fire and earth were all complete. In the future, he could use any flying sword of any attribute he wanted. Unfortunately, his 5 elements Chaos Sutra was still at the foundation building stage, and it was too difficult to use a third order magic weapon. So these things could only be sealed up temporarily. Of course, after he went back, he had to check these things carefully again. After confirming that there was no problem, he dared to take them out and use them. In addition to the 10 flying swords, there were 2 third-order low-grade defensive magic weapons. One was a tortoise-shell magic weapon with earth attributes, and the other was a shield magic weapon with the gold attributes. These 2 magic weapons are exactly what Lin Changqing needs now. So he checked them several times and found no problems, then he started to sacrifice them. Of course, defense magic weapons are different from attack magic weapons. He disliked using attack magic weapons as a waste of mana. But if he used defense magic weapons, he would not have this idea. After all, his own safety is the most important thing. It would be a waste of mana. The remaining things were just some messy sundries and 3 Black Lotus-like identity jade cards. There was nothing else. Just walk and stop along the way, occasionally take a detour to visit nearby islands. In the end, it took more than a month to return to the Shenshu island of Xianshu sect. After registering at the mountain gate, he successfully entered the inner gate, but he did not go anywhere. Instead, he flew directly to the general affairs hall of the inner gate, and it took almost 2 hours to get there. He arrived at the courtyard of the old drunkard with the familiar way, and waited for the disciple who led the way to leave. Lin Changqing took out 8 bottles of second-level spirit wine directly from the storage bag and placed them on the table. He began with a smile, "Uncle Ranming, I'm back after completing my mission. This time I brought you 4 different flavors of spirit wine, you can try them when you have time." Chapter 658, The 5 Deteriorations of Heaven and Man. The old drunkard looked at him with drunken eyes, then nodded with satisfaction and said, "You are thoughtful, kid. With your strength, you should have a lot of extra gains from this mission, right?" Lin Changqing didn't know why the old drunkard suddenly asked this question, but he answered truthfully, "It's okay. Among them, there is a kind of spiritual beast, and the harvest is relatively large, 10 more than the mission requirements. Do you need anything?" The old drunkard rolled his eyes at him unhappily, and then said, "What do I need? It's your apprentice who needs it." Hearing the old drunkard say this, Lin Changqing was even more confused and couldn't help asking him, "How does this have to do with Li Qinshan again?" The old drunkard said lightly, "With your personality, are you going to exchange these extra spiritual materials directly to the sect?" Lin Changqing nodded and said, "Yes, that's what I thought. This saves time and effort, and we can have more time to practice, isn't it better?" The old drunkard ignored him and continued, "These spiritual materials will immediately lose 3 levels of value when exchanged for the sect. You can give them to your apprentice and let him take them to the trading square organized by the disciples in the sect to sell them. You only need to give him 1 or 2% of the reward, so that you can all get benefits. Isn't it very good?" After hearing this, Lin Changqing knew what the old drunkard was thinking. He didn't expect that he would help the Li family again. At this time, Lin Changqing couldn't help asking, "Uncle Master, what is the relationship between you and the Li family? Is it worth your hard work for them?" After hearing this, the old drunkard sighed for a long time, and then was silent for a long time before he said, "I was originally ready to accept Li Qinshan's father as a real disciple, but unfortunately the border was too dangerous, and I didn't wait for him to come back in the end. But even so, I also regard the family he left behind as my own people. We have such a relationship, not as complicated as you think." After listening, Lin Changqing nodded and didn't say anything. He suddenly felt a heavy sense of twilight on the old drunkard. It seemed that there was nothing in the world that was worth him staying for. Logically speaking, this kind of aura should not be felt on a giant and cultivator like him. At least, this situation will not occur until the old drunkard begins to suffer from the 5 decays of heaven and man. It seems that many bad things must have happened to the old drunkard, no wonder he is drunk all day long. Moreover, the matter the old drunkard said did not cause any loss to him, and it was even more or less beneficial, so Lin Changqing would not refuse. So he said, "Okay, I understand. After all, Li Qinchuan is my nominal apprentice. In the future, if there are any extra spiritual materials, I will give them to him to deal with. Just as you said, I will give him 2 levels of reward." After hearing this, the old drunkard did not say anything. Seeing him like this, Lin Changqing was about to say goodbye and leave. Unexpectedly, the old drunkard suddenly said, "Lin boy, what do you think we cultivate immortals for?" Without waiting for Lin Changqing to answer, he continued, "Is it for longevity? Or is it for moving mountains and filing the sea, catching stars and the moon? Or is it for traveling across the universe, being free and at ease? But for a lonely man, even if he has all these, what's the point?" Hearing what the old drunkard said, Lin Changqing had more or less guessed what had happened to him. According to his guess, all the old drunkard's close relatives should be gone, so he would be drunk all day long. However, Lin Changqing didn't know how to comfort him, and suddenly he had an idea and said, "Uncle Master, do you think we can resurrect our deceased relatives when we cultivate to become immortals?" When the old drunkard heard this, his aura suddenly soared, and 2 golden lights shot out of his eyes instantly, like 2 sharp swords. But after a while, this aura disappeared again. The old drunkard sighed and said, "It's not that easy to cultivate and become an immortal. But thank you anyway, although it is really illusory and unattainable, it finally left me with a thought. In the future, I will work hard to move towards this goal, so these 2 things are for you." After saying that, he took out 2 jade slips, 1 black and 1 green, from the storage bracelet on his hand and threw them to Lin Changqing. He continued, "Inside the black jade slip is a thunder attribute technique that is close to the heavenly grade, called 9 Heavens God Punishment Ju. This is the technique I got from my previous expedition, but I didn't submit it to the sect. So you can seriously consider whether to change the technique. And inside the cyan jade slip is my experience of cultivation over the years. You can read and compare it yourself when you have time. I hope they will all be helpful to you. Also, I will devote most of my energy to cultivation in the future. You have to take care of the 3 people from the Li family. If I am in seclusion, you can also go to Xiaojiu to discuss anything." Lin Changqing didn't expect that his almost foolish words could stimulate the old drunkard and make him change so much. And he also got 2 jade slips, one of which was a high-level thunder technique. It can be considered to use it to open up his own middle danshan, but the specific situation will have to wait until I study it myself to know whether it will work. But it seems that the old drunkard wants to hand over the 3 people from the Li family to himself and the man surnamed Zhao to take care of, which is a bit troublesome. But seeing the old drunkard like this, he didn't dare to refuse directly, lest he be beaten up on the spot. So he smiled and thanked him. "Thank you for the Dharma, uncle. I will remember what you told me. If you don't have anything else to do, I will go to hand in the task first." After that, he wanted to say goodbye and leave. Unexpectedly, at this time, the old drunkard said again, "Lin boy, why are you in a hurry? I still have something to say. How have you been getting along with Li Xiangting during this period? Have you seriously considered my opinion?" Lin Changqing didn't know why he suddenly brought up this question again, but still replied, "The relationship is just ordinary, probably." "Uncle, your opinion, you are not talking about letting me marry Li Xiangting, right? Although she looks good, she is too immature. I think it's better to find her than her mother Reincarnated. At least Reincarnated looks mature and plump, and she is round and smooth, much better than that immature little girl." Chapter 659 Extreme Yin Body. After hearing what Lin Changqing said, the old drunkard couldn't help laughing and said, "So that's the case. You like mature and plump ones. That's not impossible, as long as Reincarnated agrees. But do you know why that little bastard surnamed Wei has been obsessed with Li Xiangting?" Hearing the old drunkard's question, Lin Changqing was also very curious. What else was there? There was a hidden secret that he didn't know. So he followed the old drunkard's words and asked, "Uncle Master, why is that?" The old drunkard said lightly, "Because Li Xiangting has a precious body. Although her own spiritual roots are not that good, she was born in the yin year, yin month, yin day, yin time, and yin moment with a 5 yin body. That is the extremely yin body in the world of immortal cultivation. An extreme yin gives birth to yang, an extreme yang gives birth to yang. So her yuan yin has a great effect in helping cultivators break through the great realm and consolidate their foundation. Especially for that little bastard named Wei, it is even more important. Because his magic power is so complicated, which makes his foundation empty and unstable, then he needs Li Xiangting's yuan yin to help him advance to the purple mansion and consolidate his foundation by the way. So you know what's going on, right? Do you still think she is too immature now? Can you still refuse her? Do you still think that I am calculating against you by transferring their troubles to you? Lin Changqing was a little unprepared when he heard the old drunkard asking so many questions at once. It took a little time to finally sort out all the causes and consequences. At the same time, I also understood why Wei Changzheng would spend such a huge price to ask the cultivators of the Black Lotus Hidden Tower to kill him. And at this time, Yi Changqing also quickly waited in his heart. He didn't know the true situation of Li Xiangting before. So although he had a certain liking for the mother and daughter, he didn't think of taking action. After all, he was a cultivator from the outside world. If this secret was leaked in the future, it would definitely implicate the close people around him. So in this world, he didn't mean to find a Taoist partner, but thought about practicing with all his heart. See if he can return to his original world one day after his cultivation is high, or after reconnecting with Lin Changqing. But now that he knows that Chen Xiangting is an extremely yin body, it's different. After all, if he advances to the purple mansion period, Lin Changqing is still 70% to 80% sure. Anyway, he has 2 purple mansion Twangsuan pills in his hand. But about the golden pill period, he has no confidence at all. Now that the old drunkard told him about this, it must not be cheap for others. Moreover, he had already experienced the danger of death for Li Xiangting. The 3 purple mansions united to hunt him down in the foundation establishment stage. Anyway, no matter what, he couldn't let him make sacrifices without any return. So Lin Changqing had to sacrifice himself again and take Li Xiangting as his Taoist partner in this world. Only in this way could it be justified. So he said to the old drunkard with a grin, "Uncle Master, I never said that you were calculating against me. You see, every time I come, I have to find a few bottles of spirit wine for you, which shows how much I respect you from the bottom of my heart. And you are so right, old man. I have no way to refuse such a good girl like Xiangting. As for the fact that Xiangting is too young and immature, it will be fine in a few years. So I think it doesn't matter much, I can wait." The old drunkard couldn't help laughing when he heard Lin Changqing's shameless words. He looked him up and down for a few more times, and then he said, "I didn't expect that when you have great benefits, you really don't care about your face. No wonder people like you always get the upper hand. You go to hand in the task first, and then go back to Qian Valley. In the next 2 days, I will take some time to go to your place and implement this matter. Then choose a day. If you have friends you can invite them to have a small gathering and let them act as witnesses." After listening to this, Lin Changqing agreed with a smile, and then wanted to tell him to leave. Unexpectedly, the old drunkard said again, "But there is one thing I want to make clear to you. After you marry Li Xiangting, the affairs of the Li family are your affairs. Including the matter of replacing the extremely yin attribute technique for Li Xiangting, you must be responsible for it yourself." After listening to Lin Changqing, he immediately reacted and knew that although the special spirit body is not a spiritual root, it can also be cultivated. I just don't know why he didn't practice the yin attribute technique directly at the beginning. However, Lin Changqing still said, "Of course. She is already my Taoist partner. I will be responsible for solving her family affairs and her skills. But I don't understand why you didn't let her practice the extremely yin attribute skills from the beginning." The old drunkard glanced at him indifferently and said, "From the beginning, Li Xiangting was not a disciple of the Xianshu sect. She is just a family member of an inner sect disciple. And the extremely yin attribute skills are extremely rare and precious. The Xianshu sect only has one high-level extremely yin skill, the Zhuanyan Yumingju. And if you let your family members practice it, it will cost 10 times the sect contribution points. This is not something an ordinary inner sect disciple can afford." After listening to this, Lin Changqing also knew the ins and outs, so he couldn't help but ask, "Then how many sect contribution points are needed to exchange for this Zhuanyan Yumingju?" When the old drunkard heard Lin Changqing ask this, he knew that he was already thinking about this matter. So he nodded and said, "If you exchange it yourself, You need 120,000 sect contribution points. But if I come forward and help you exchange it, you only need 80,000 contribution points." Lin Changqing couldn't help showing a surprised expression when he heard this number. If it is converted according to this price, it seems that a rare high-level technique only needs 400,000 low-grade spirit stones, which is not too expensive. However, the old drunkard still explained and said, "Because I am not a sect disciple, I exchanged the technique with 10 times the sect contribution points. Even if my family leaves Xianshu sect in the future, they will not be recovered." Hearing this, Lin Changqing suddenly realized that there are so many twists and turns in it. It really broadened his horizons. However, it actually requires 80,000 sect contribution points, which is not a small number. Even if he hands in the task later, there are probably only more than 30,000 contribution points in his identity jade card. It seems that I have to find a way to get more sect contribution points recently. Chapter 660. A sudden inspiration. Lin Changqing said directly to the old drunkard, "Uncle, I understand. I will find a way to collect 80,000 sect contribution points as soon as possible. When the time comes, I will need to trouble you to come forward and help exchange for the Zhuan Yin Yaomingju." Hearing that he was willing to spend such a large price to replace Li Xiangting with a technique suitable for her, the old drunkard was quite relieved. He also believed that he had not made a mistake, so he nodded and said, "I understand, go ahead. When you have collected the sect contribution points, just come to me." After Lin Changqing bowed, he said goodbye and left. This time he finally walked out of the general affairs hall smoothly. He didn't expect that this time he came to the old drunkard, the harvest would be so great, which was completely beyond his imagination. He flew directly to the sect mission hall on his sword, and arrived at the destination after about an hour. This time he was familiar with the route, and he just found a team with fewer people and lined up. He was thinking about Li Xiangting in his heart. Although the old drunkard didn't say it, he guessed that the effect of Li Xiangting's yin essence was also related to her own cultivation. It seems that after the two of them became Taoist partners, he should give her more resources. After all, in Lin Changqing's opinion, if Li Xiangting wanted to help him advance to the golden color, she would need to have at least the cultivation of the purple mansion period, otherwise it would not be justified. It is impossible for a young cultivator in the key refining period to help him advance to the golden color. The effect of the spiritual body would be too heaven-defying. But Lin Changqing never believed that such an exaggerated and outrageous thing would happen. And since this is the case, Murin Qingyan and Li Taichuan should also be supported by him. The most suitable thing for them now is the dozens of 100-year-old red fruits left in his hand. In this case, he will not move them and leave them to them. He will use peels to practice in the future. It just so happens that he has a lot of such trophies, which can support his practice to the great perfection of foundation building, which is a completely easy thing. Just at this time, it was finally Lin Changqing's turn. After he approached the counter, he took out the 3 task scrolls from his storage bag, and handed in the task items required on it, including his body jade card. After the inspection by the on-duty personnel inside, it was quickly confirmed that all the task items handed in by Lin Changqing met the requirements. The 3 tasks totaled 11,000 sect contribution points. After getting back the identity jade card, Lin Changqing took a look and saw that the contribution points displayed on it were only more than 34,000, which was still a little far from the required 80,000 contribution points. But it doesn't matter. At worst, I can find someone to exchange some privately when the time comes. The most important thing is that I have another 6 or 7 months of training time. However, I should hurry back to Qian Valley first. It is estimated that it will be almost dark when I get there. After leaving the task hall, I flew all the way to my cave. After about 2 hours, I arrived at my own territory. Yu Jian patrolled outside and found nothing wrong, so he went directly into the 9 palaces Yuan Mirage Array and returned to Qian Valley. Unexpectedly, as soon as he came back, he scanned with his spiritual sense and saw the 3 people of the Li family, who were drinking tea with a man surnamed Zhao. This made Lin Changqing roll his eyes, but he also guessed it. This person should be the one that the old drunkard sent to look after the 3 people of the Li family after he went on a mission, so he couldn't say anything. However, the noise of his return still made everyone in the yard know about it. So, the 3 people of the Li family came out to greet him, and the one running in the front was his nominal disciple. When Li Qingchuan saw him, he smiled and shouted, "Master, you are back." Is the mission going well? Lin Changqing nodded and chuckled. Fortunately, the mission went well, but most of the time was spent on the journey. At this time, Li Xiangting and Reincarnated also came over and said, "Congratulations to Uncle Lin for completing the mission and returning safely." Lin Changqing continued to chuckle and said, "Thank you. You are all thoughtful." After speaking, he suddenly had an idea, so he directly took out 300-year-old red fruits. He said, "This is a second-level spiritual fruit I accidentally got on my way back. I tried it and found it suitable for the key refining stage. I'll give you one each." After that, he stuffed one into each of the 3 Li family members. Li Qingshuan was very happy to accept it, and Li Xiangting and Reincarnated refused twice, but he forced them to accept it. At this time, Li Qingshuan asked again, "Master, you haven't told us what the magic of this second-level spiritual fruit is." Lin Changqing nodded and said, "This should be a 100-year-old zoo fruit. It doesn't have much effect on me. It may just improve my magic power a little. But for you, if you take one, you can almost improve your cultivation by 1 level." As soon as he finished speaking, Li Qingshuan couldn't help but exclaimed, "Ah!" Then he was so excited that his face flushed and he jumped up excitedly. When Li Xiangting and Reincarnated heard that this thing was so precious, they looked at each other and wanted to take it out and return it to Lin Changqing. However, he refused, so Lin Changqing simply took out the jade box containing the red fruit and showed it to the 3 of them. After letting them confirm with their own eyes that there were still many such second-level spiritual fruits in it, the 2 of them accepted his gift with peace of mind. At this time, the man surnamed Zhao finally came out. As a guest, he should have come out with the people from the Li family. But he and Lin Changqing didn't like each other, so they waited until now to come out. The 2 of them were polite on the surface, and after saying hello, the man surnamed Zhao said, "Since junior brother Lin is back, my mission is completed, and I will take my leave first." Hearing him say this, the 3 people from the Li family hurriedly thanked him, and together with Lin Changqing, they sent him out of Qian Valley. Originally, Lin Changqing didn't want to do this. After all, the 2 of them were not in harmony. But after all, they also protected his future Taoist partner, so it was still worth it for him to personally send him off. After Lin Changqing and the 3 people from the Li family returned to the hall of the courtyard where he lived, everyone sat down in order of importance, and Li Xiangting was very conscious and brewed spiritual tea for everyone. This made Lin Changqing unable to help but think about Chen Ziya again. He wondered how she was doing now. After forcibly restraining this inappropriate thought, he asked, "During the time I was away on a mission, nothing else happened in Qian Valley, right?" If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 661 Amethyst Scorpion falls into sleep. Unexpectedly, as soon as he finished speaking, Li Qingshuan jumped up and said, "Master, about 10 days after you left Qian Valley, the bad guy Wei Changjing wanted to come and harass my sister again. Fortunately, Uncle Zhao was nearby and drove him away." After hearing this, Lin Changqing's murderous intent surged, and his killing intent towards Wei Changjing increased by another 10%. However, he did not show it on the spot, but said lightly, "It's okay. If he dares to come again in the future, just find a way to lure him into the 9 Palaces Yuan Mirage Formation, trap him for a month or 2, and throw him out when he is almost dead." Li Qingshuan was so excited when he heard Lin Changqing say this, and immediately agreed loudly. After hearing this, Li Xiangting and Reincarnated were quite worried, but it was not easy to say anything now. Lin Changqing thought of what the old drunkard said, so he said, "The mission was completed smoothly, and there were many extra gains. But if these extra spiritual materials are exchanged directly to the sect, I will lose 30% of the spiritual stones. What I mean is this: give these spiritual materials to Qin Xuan to handle, and exchange them for spiritual stones or sect contribution points. 2 of them will be his reward. What do you think of my proposal?" Li Qingshuan was very happy after hearing this, and even danced with excitement. Then he said to Lin Changqing, "Master, if there is something, I will do the work for you. You don't need to pay me, I am willing to help you deal with those things." At this time, Reincarnated also said, "Yes, Uncle Lin, Xia Ochuan is your disciple, you should not pay him. Besides, You have just given 3 precious second-level spiritual fruits. It is unreasonable to accept your payment." Lin Changqing waved his hand and said, "You all don't have to refuse anymore. The things I asked Qinchuan to sell are not just 1 or 2, but a lot of things. Even some things that need to be disposed of in the future will be given to him to sell. So this is a very long-term job. If you don't charge, I will be embarrassed to use him." After hearing this, Li Qinchuan couldn't help but plead with his mother, "Mom, I want to help Master sell things." Reincarnated glanced at him, sighed and said, "Since he wants to go so much, I can't stop him. But giving him 2 layers of rewards is too much, he can only take 1 layer at most." Lin Changqing looked at the performance of the 3 people from the Li family today, and his impression of them became better. So he nodded and said, "Okay. No need to argue anymore, just do as I say. By the way, the second-level spiritual fruit given to you can only take 1 per year during the key refining stage. If you take 2 in a short period of time, it may be harmful rather than beneficial. The correct approach should be to spend as much time as possible to refine the extra spiritual energy after your cultivation is improved, so as not to cause an unstable foundation. You can see the consequences of cutting corners and trying to take shortcuts by looking at Wei Changzhen, so I don't need to introduce it to you again. So you should use the spiritual fruit as soon as possible, and don't think about leaving it to anyone, otherwise it may be wasted." Hearing Lin Changqing say this, Li Xiangting and Reincarnated couldn't help but exclaimed, It was obvious that Lin Changqing had hit the nail on the head. And only Li Qinchuan was laughing foolishly. Everything should be stopped at the right point, and Lin Changqing didn't continue to talk, but began to share some of the islands and experiences he encountered during his mission. After chatting for about an hour, Reincarnated took them to say goodbye and leave. Lin Changqing put all kinds of spiritual insects and pets back to their original positions, and then he went back to his room to rest. After running around outside for more than 2 months, he had to return to his own territory to rest at ease. However, the next morning, Yi Changqing was awakened by a wave of spiritual energy tides. He was very familiar with this kind of fluctuation. He had advanced to the key refining stage like this before. So he used his spiritual sense to scan it gently and found that it was his nominal disciple Li Qinchuan who had broken through to the 5th level of key refining and was now working hard to consolidate it. And his mother and sister were helping him guard the law at the door. This is also good. When I gave them the 100 years red fruit yesterday, I almost guessed that it would be like this, and it didn't feel too strange. In fact, Lin Changqing almost guessed what Li Qinchuan was thinking. It's very simple. He has been trying to make himself stronger in his heart to protect his mother and sister. For a little guy like this who is affectionate and righteous, he thinks that he can support him more in the future. Since he was awakened, he began to practice normally every day. In the morning, he practiced a 5 Elements Chaos Sutra. In the evening, he practiced a Thunder Sutra and expanded the Thunder acupoints. In the 2 months of going out on missions, he completed the expansion of another acupoint. Now there are 107 acupoints left. If he doesn't use the Thunder Fruit, he doesn't know when he will be able to complete this task. So Lin Changqing has been thinking about whether to use the precious Thunder Fruit in this place. However, Lin Changqing still has 6 or 7 months before he goes out on a mission next time, so he can think about it slowly. But not long after he finished practicing, he was about to go to the back garden to make himself a pot of tea and take a break. All the purple crystal scorpions suddenly came to him and conveyed to him that they wanted spirit crystals and spirit stones. Lin Changqing was shocked. These little guys of his had never had such a phenomenon before. However, he immediately took out the things they wanted, and also took a piece of 3rd-level monster meat, cut it into small pieces and threw it to them. After they ate all the things Lin Changqing took out, they all fell into deep sleep. Seeing that they all suddenly stopped moving, he was shocked, and quickly sensed through the contract, and found out that they were all in good condition. At this time, Lin Changqing also reacted that these little guys were preparing to advance together. But he couldn't figure it out. When they entered the 2nd level, they were all in a row, not in the same batch. Normally, shouldn't they advance in batches according to the order of succession? How could they suddenly advance at the same time? Even if Lin Changqing racked his brains, he couldn't think of the answer to this question. Because he didn't know that in the Lei Ji secret realm, these little guys had benefited from his light and got a lot of opportunities, so they advanced together today. Chapter 662, Take Precautions. However, Lin Changqing is very experienced in taking care of these little guys, After all, they have advanced before. In fact, it is very simple, just carefully send them to the Spirit Beast bracelet and protect them. Lin Changqing carefully counted them, and he sent all the 88 purple crystal scorpions into the Spirit Beast bracelet. It is estimated that they should be able to wake up in about 10 days and half a month. Among all Lin Changqing's spirit pets, except for the black thunderbird Chao Chu, there is only one 4-ball left, which is still rolling around in the late stage of the first stage. It eats and sleeps every day. Since it was scared by Chuer once, it has become very homebound. It is not active in cultivation at all, and it is unknown when it will be possible to advance to the second stage. And Chao Chu has been following Chuer, and almost regarded it as its own mother. Its own height has grown very fast, and now its wingspan is about 5 feet. However, its cultivation is only at the early stage of the first stage, and its innate magic has not yet been revealed. Now it follows Chuyi and Chuer all day long. Lin Changqing plans to do it in about half a year. Only then did he give it a 100-year-old red fruit, so as not to improve its cultivation too early and damage its foundation. In fact, there is also a magic cloud vine in Lin Changqing's Spirit Beast bracelet, which he planted inside the Spirit Beast bracelet. However, although he now has a small territory, this thing is too dangerous and it is really not suitable to release it. Otherwise, the 3 people of the Li family may all suffer. They can only wait until they have their own island in the future and then move this thing out. At that time, it will be a very good choice as a barrier to protect their own island. 2 days passed like this. After Lin Changqing completed his cultivation that day, Li Qinshuan ran over to ask to see him. After greeting him, he smiled and said, "Master, my disciple's cultivation is now the same as my sister's. Both of us are at the 5th level of key refining. Didn't you say last time that you wanted me to help you deal with some spiritual materials? I wonder when I can start." After listening to him, Lin Changqing used his spiritual sense to scan him slightly and felt that the spiritual energy in his body was basically stable. So he nodded and asked, "I heard that there is a trading square organized by inner and outer disciples in the sect. Have you been to that place?" Li Qinshuan nodded repeatedly and said, "I have been there, I have been there. When my father went there before, I often pestered him to take me there. So I am quite familiar with it, and I know how to sell spiritual objects there." "Master, don't worry." After hearing what he said, Lin Changqing thought about it for a while before saying, "Then let's wait for half a month before starting. You have just broken through not long ago, and your main task now is to continue to consolidate your existing cultivation. It should be just right in about half a month, but by then, I will go with you to prevent people from bullying you. And your cultivation is too low. If you fly on your own sword, it will probably waste a lot of time going back and forth every day. So, let Chuai accompany you in the future, so that the speed will be faster and I can protect you by the way." After hearing this, Li Qinshuan thanked him excitedly. "Great, thank you Master. Thank you Master. Disciple will definitely work hard in the future and help Master sell all the things." Lin Changqing couldn't help but chuckled after hearing this. He still liked Li Qinshuan's character very much. So he warned, "You should focus on your own cultivation. Let you deal with those things, just let you do it as a part-time job. Don't be too obsessed with earning spirit stones. Cultivation is the foundation of everything." "Do you understand?" Li Qinshuan knew that Lin Changqing was doing this for his own good, so he said very respectfully, "Thank you for Master's teachings, disciple will remember it." Lin Changqing nodded, waved his hand and said, "Go. Practice more to consolidate, and tell your mother and sister about this matter by the way. Let them be mentally prepared, so that they won't be reluctant to leave when they have to leave." Li Qinshuan blushed after hearing this, and then after a salute, he ran out. In fact, Lin Changqing also had some concerns about such an arrangement. After all, there was Wei Changzhen, the venomous snake, who was looking for an opportunity to act. Lin Changqing was afraid that he would target Li Qinshuan, and then threaten Li Xiangting through Li Qinshuan. If that was the case, it would be too disgusting. So in order to prevent it, Lin Changqing would definitely prepare some means for Li Qinshuan at that time. In his opinion, the Shocking God Cicada and the Amethyst Scorpion are the best trump cards, but Li Qinshuan himself would definitely not be able to withstand the indiscriminate attack of the Shocking God technique. So the Amethyst Scorpion is still needed, and the little guys should wake up in about half a month, just in time for this matter. Of course, Lin Changqing would not lend him too many, at most 2 or 3, and more might be too conspicuous. As for what the fate of those who might attack Li Qinchuan is, it is not something Lin Changqing should consider. After all, for Lin Changqing, Li Qinchuan is his disciple, and it is also very normal for him to put a few spirit insects on his disciple to protect him. Moreover, Lin Changqing has studied the rules of the Xianshu sect very clearly, as long as it can be proved that someone else wanted to murder him first. At that time, if a person is really killed by the purple crystal scorpion, then the death is in vain. So he only needs to prepare 1 or 2 more magic tools for Li Qinchuan, similar to the image-keeping beads, so that it will be almost perfect. After a rough deduction in his mind and finding no major flaws, Lin Changqing was relieved. These 2 days, he has been waiting for the old drunkard to come to the door to finalize the matter of marrying Li Xiangting as a Taoist partner. At that time, Lin Changqing will talk to him about this matter by the way. If the old drunkard does not object, it will probably be carried out in this way. And it was the old drunkard himself who proposed to let Li Qinchuan sell spiritual materials. In case something really happened, the old drunkard would come forward to cover it, and he only needed to play a supporting role on the side. At this time, Lin Changqing did not wait for the old drunkard, but waited for Li Xiangting instead. She was a little shy and came to the pavilion in the back garden to find him. After she greeted him, Lin Changqing asked her to sit down opposite. In fact, Lin Changqing had guessed her intentions to come. But he was still prepared to wait for her to speak first before explaining his plans to her. Chapter 663, A Little Show of Strength. So Li Xiangting glanced at Lin Changqing, and then said cautiously, Uncle Master, about Qinchuan's going out. I think we have to consider some other directions, such as the possibility that Wei Changzheng will do something bad. Or the possibility that he will not take action himself and let others take action. Lin Changqing listened to the problem Li Xiangting said with a smile on his face. In fact, this is quite good. He doesn't want to find a Taoist partner who only has beauty but no brains. Although in fact, in his heart, he feels that being a Taoist partner with Li Xiangting is more like an invisible transaction. But since everyone is destined to be together, he also believes that they will definitely fall in love with each other in the future. So he hopes to have a Taoist partner who is both beautiful and wise, so that he will not let down his great efforts and sacrifices. So he nodded and said to Li Xiangting, Don't worry. I have considered the problem you mentioned. When the time comes, I will leave enough means to protect Li Qinchuan and ensure that he will be safe. It is even possible to kill the monks who want to harm him. After hearing this, Li Xiangting felt a little relieved, but she continued to ask, If that's the case, that's great. But uncle, can you let me know what means you left behind? So that we can all rest assured. Lin Changqing glanced at her, pondered for a moment, and said, It is a very powerful second-order middle-grade spirit insect. They can be invisible, and now even the Purple Mansion period monks find it difficult to find them. And the flying speed is even faster than that of the cultivators who have reached the great perfection of the foundation building. The most important thing is that they can also attack the soul from a distance. The only fate of ordinary cultivators who have reached the great perfection of the foundation building is death. Hearing Lin Changqing's description, Li Xiangting couldn't help but be fascinated, and at the same time, she was so excited that her little face flushed. She didn't expect that Lin Changqing had such a powerful spirit insect. No wonder he was able to get a place as an inner disciple when he just entered the sect. So Li Xiangting looked at Lin Changqing with watery eyes and said, Uncle Master, can you let me see them so that I can broaden my horizons? Lin Changqing knew that if he said it, Li Xiangting would definitely ask for it. But looking at her like this, she was still very cute, and he couldn't help but want to pinch her little face. But Lin Changqing knew that if he really did that, it would seem too frivolous, so he finally held back. He just said lightly, Okay, I will let you and your mother see it on the day Li Qinchuan leaves. But I won't let you see it today, so as to avoid showing it again. But I hope that after you have seen it, you will swear to help me keep the secret. Promise not to let outsiders know. Li Xiangting was very happy and excited to hear that, and nodded repeatedly, Great, uncle. There is no problem with swearing to keep it secret. I will be responsible for going back and telling my mother about this matter. I promise that the news will not be leaked from us. Lin Changqing nodded and chuckled, This is the best. If outsiders don't know, Li Qinchuan will be safer when he walks outside in the future. After listening to this, Li Xiangting also nodded in agreement. Then she accompanied Lin Changqing and chatted for a while, then said goodbye and left. In this way, 10 days passed peacefully. At noon that day, the old drunkard and its senior brother Zhao suddenly appeared at the gate of Qian Valley. Lin Changqing felt someone trigger the magic circle, and when he found out it was the drunkard, he immediately rushed over to greet him. After he opened the magic circle and welcomed the drunkard in, he said with a smile, "Uncle Master, welcome you and brother Zhao to Qian Valley." It was very rare today that the drunkard looked sober, without the feeling of being drunk. When he saw Lin Changqing, he said, "I promised you that I would come in 2 days. I didn't expect that. I haven't practiced for so long, and I just entered a state of meditation for a little while, and more than 10 days have passed. So I came here today. Are you impatient?" And the magic circle outside Qian Valley is well arranged, but it's quite bold. When Lin Changqing heard it, he knew that he was talking about the matter of him covering the 3 hills in the magic circle. So he could only laugh dryly a few times, and then said, "Uncle Master, you are joking. Everyone is here, why should I be in a hurry?" However, the arrangement of this small 3rd-level magic circle of mine is a little beyond the boundaries. I wonder if this is a problem. The old drunkard rolled his eyes at him, and then said lightly, "Let's leave it this way for now. We'll deal with it later if someone brings it up." Lin Changqing laughed dryly after hearing this, and was about to invite them to the living room for tea. Unexpectedly, the 3 members of the Li family also came over. After seeing the old drunkard, they hurriedly greeted them respectfully and said, "Disciple Murin Qingyan, I meet Grandmaster Ranming and Uncle Zhao." Disciple Li Xiangting, I meet Grandmaster Ranming and Uncle Zhao. Disciple Li Qinchuan, I meet Grandmaster Ranming and Uncle Zhao. The old drunkard looked at them, nodded, and then said, "No need to be so polite. It seems that you have all been doing well during this period of time, and your cultivation is a little higher than the last time we met." Murin Qingyan hurriedly said, "These are all the credit of Uncle Lin. Thanks to the 2nd-level spiritual fruit he gave us, the 3 disciples have the current cultivation. A few days ago, after using the 100-year-old Zhu fruit, Murin Qingyan and Li Xiangting each increased their cultivation by 1 level. Hearing this, the old drunkard looked at Lin Changqing meaningfully with a half-smile. Then he said, "I remember the view of the back garden here is nice, let's go sit there." Everyone agreed, and then Lin Changqing led the way in front, and then everyone went to the pavilion in the back garden and sat down. Li Xiangting made tea for everyone, and the old drunkard chatted with him. The main content of the chat was about the 3 people in the Li family. About half an hour passed. The old drunkard suddenly said to Lin Changqing, "Little Lin, you and Xiaojiu, please step aside first. I have something to discuss with them." Lin Changqing and senior brother Zhao heard it and reacted immediately. After that, they bowed and left the back garden. After the 2 of them left the yard one after the other, it was Zhao who said, "Junior brother Lin, I seem to see that the spiritual peaches in the west seem to be ripe. Let's go over and pick some." Lin Changqing scanned it with his spiritual sense, and sure enough, there was a peach tree there, and there were many ripe spiritual peaches hanging on it. Chapter 664 A Sudden Change. Since the guests said so, Lin Changqing, as the host, naturally had to accompany them. So the 2 of them walked to the west of Qian Valley while admiring the flowers and plants planted by Murin Qingyan and Li Xiangting. It was less than 2 miles away, and they arrived at the place in a flash. After picking some 1st-level spiritual peaches, the 2 of them simply played Daoxin chess under the peach tree. This is a kind of cultivator chess unique to the Xinghe realm, which is just right for the 2 of them to kill boring time. After the 2 of them played for a while, senior brother Zhao suddenly asked, "Junior brother Lin, do you know what the main reason is for senior uncle Ranming to come here suddenly this time?" Lin Changqing was moved when he heard this. This Zhao didn't even know what the old drunkard was going to do this time. It seems that the old drunkard's mouth is really tight. Before the matter is settled, he can't let it out casually. So Lin Changqing shook his head and said, looking at the uncle's look, "There must be something wrong. But I think it shouldn't be a bad thing. Of course, maybe when we go back later, the uncle will tell us. So, let's play chess first, otherwise it's useless to guess there." Brother Zhao heard Lin Changqing's perfect answer, and there was no way to ask further, so he could only shift his attention to the Daoxin chess. In this way, the 2 of them were fully focused, fighting each other on the chessboard. Anyway, the situation was that no one would give in. So before they knew it, almost half an hour had passed, and at this time, the old drunkard's voice came to the ears of both of them. "Okay, the matter has been discussed, you 2 can come back." After listening, the 2 looked at each other, then immediately packed up their things and walked towards the back garden. When Lin Changqing returned to the pavilion, Li Xiangting's face was so shy that it turned red. Reincarnated's face was always smiling, and it seemed that she was very satisfied with Lin Changqing. The most obvious one was Lin Changqing, who was so excited that he was almost dancing. He seemed to be more excited than Lin Changqing. However, as soon as Lin Changqing came back, everyone's eyes were focused on him. He was a little embarrassed, but fortunately, he was thick-skinned now, and others could not see his embarrassment. Fortunately, at this time, the old drunkard did not embarrass him, and directly spoke to him and said, "Okay, things went very smoothly and successfully. I, the Iceman, have finally completed the task you entrusted me with today. Xiangting has agreed to become your Taoist partner, and her mother and brother also agree, so you will be responsible for protecting her in the future. Now why don't you take out the things you prepared? How long do you have to wait?" This time, Lin Changqing's old face was really a little red, and he quickly agreed, and then he took out an exquisite small jade box from the spirit beast bracelet. He personally handed it to Li Xiangting, and then introduced it. "This is the treasure Sanhuizuan pill that I got by chance. It has the same effect as Jiaoan pill, and it can keep your face forever." After hearing Lin Changqing's introduction, the others were not surprised, but Reincarnated and Li Xiangting were both surprised and exclaimed. Obviously, they did not expect that Lin Changqing would actually take out such a thing. This is simply the most fatal attraction for them, women. The main material of Jiaoan pill here is the inner pill of the second-level beauty Jiao, and after the pill is made, it is only a second-level upper-grade elixir. However, due to its special nature, it requires at least 10,000 sect contribution points to be exchanged. And often once it is refined, it is exchanged by people with inside information. Therefore, ordinary disciples, even if they have enough sect contribution points, it is difficult to see this treasure, so this makes them so surprised. Li Xiangting was happy and grabbed the jade box in her hand. Now it seems that she is very satisfied with this gift. Then, with a blushing face, he took off the jade pendant he was wearing and put it in Lin Changqing's hand. After they finished these two actions, the old drunkard continued to say, "Well, we monks don't care about those mundane etiquette. Since you have exchanged tokens with each other, you will be a real family from now on. If you want to have fun, choose a good day in a few days, invite 3 or 5 friends to come over for a small gathering, and witness it by the way, and the ceremony will be completed. But I probably won't be able to make it in time. After I go back this time, I will start to retreat. It will probably take at least 3 to 5 years before I come out again. So during this time, you all have to be careful and take good care of yourself, and don't be easily calculated by others." Hearing this, Lin Changqing was shocked. He didn't expect this sudden change. It seems that this time the old drunkard has accumulated a lot of experience. However, Lin Changqing still said, "Uncle Master, what you told me about a technique." The old drunkard glanced at Li Xiangting, and then said, "Don't worry about this. Before I go into seclusion, I will first talk to Yi Qinghong and Yi Laoge of the transmission pavilion. I have a good relationship with him. When you go to exchange the technique, just say that I asked you to go." Hearing this, Lin Changqing took Li Xiangting, and the two of them respectfully performed 3 great gifts to the old drunkard. The old drunkard was good to Lin Changqing and the Li family, and he was the Iceman who urged them to become Taoist couples. Moreover, even if it was just the descendant of a registered disciple, he was willing to take care of him. He was a very respectable elder. Therefore, Lin Changqing performed these 3 great gifts sincerely, and I believe Li Xiangting felt the same as him. The old drunkard sat on the stone chair and accepted the 3 great gifts from the two of them calmly. Then he looked at them and said with a smile, "You are all good children. This is a gift I prepared for you. I believe you will like it in the future." After that, he took out a jade slip from his storage bracelet and handed it directly to Li Xiangting. Li Xiangting looked at Lin Changqing first, and when she saw that he nodded, she shyly took the thing. In fact, after hearing what the old drunkard said just now, Lin Changqing had roughly guessed what would be inside. In his opinion, if it was not the Yin-Yang Double Rest secret book, it must be something similar to this. It seems that when they become Taoist couples, the elders like to give this kind of things. When Lin Changqing and Chen Ziya became Taoist couples before, they also received such a gift once. Chapter 665 Counterattack. At this time, the old drunkard felt that the time was almost up, so he said, "Seeing the way you two flirt with each other, we won't be an eyesore here. If there is nothing else, we will go back first." After hearing what he said, Lin Changqing quickly told the old drunkard about the means he was going to leave on Lin Changqing to protect him. But he didn't say what the means were. After all, there was another senior brother Zhao here, who was considered an outsider, and Lin Changqing didn't want him to know his means. After listening, the old drunkard pondered for a moment before speaking. "I don't know what means you left behind. But now I'm about to go into seclusion, and I will definitely not be able to take care of you in 3 to 5 years, so it's better not to kill you. Otherwise, if the little bastard surnamed Wei dies, Wei Laoge will definitely come out and ask you to pay for his life. I guess if I wasn't there, you would definitely not be able to hold on, so if he really comes this time, don't kill him." After listening to Lin Changqing, he also felt that what the old drunkard said was very reasonable. There was no need to provoke a giant and cultivator so openly, so he immediately agreed. Then the old drunkard left with a man surnamed Zhao, and Lin Changqing and the others escorted them all the way to the gate of Qian Valley. Watching the old drunkard take brother Zhao, the two flew away. All of a sudden, there were only 4 of them left. Facing the 3 people from the Li family, Lin Changqing was a little embarrassed. Fortunately, Muren Qingyan saw his embarrassment and said to them with a smile, "You two can have more contact. As for Xia Achuan, come back with me first." After that, regardless of whether Li Qingshan was willing or not, she pulled him away directly. Fortunately, Li Qingshan also knew that he couldn't stay here and get in the way, but he especially wanted to talk to his brother-in-law now. But his mother didn't allow him to stay here and get in the way, so he just resisted a little and was taken away by his mother. At this time, Li Xiangting blushed and didn't dare to look at Lin Changqing. At this time, as a man, of course he had to take the initiative, and he was already an old man with thick skin and experience. So he took Li Xiangting's hand and said, "The scenery over there is nice. I'll take you to see it," Li Xiangting said to him, and then she was led by Lin Changqing obediently. The two of them strolled among the flowers and plants in Qian Valley. Butterflies and bees were flying around them. Everything looked very beautiful and full of vitality. After walking for a while, they came to the south. There happened to be a few stone benches here, so Lin Changqing took her to sit on the bench. Seeing that she was still so shy, Lin Changqing couldn't help laughing, which made Li Xiangting feel like a sheep in the mouth of a tiger. So when she was about to say something, "Uncle Lin," Lin Changqing immediately stopped her and explained, "Although I have the cultivation base of the late foundation building stage, I am not that old. I am probably just a few years older than you. From now on, you can call me Changqing, or you can call me Brother Qing." Hearing him say this, Li Xiangting relaxed completely, and then said with a smile, "Then I will call you Brother Qing from now on." Lin Changqing nodded with a smile. As soon as Li Xiangting relaxed, she became lively, and then continued to ask, "Then Brother Qing, is it really you who went to Master Ranming to propose marriage?" Only Lin Changqing and the old drunkard knew what was going on, and now the dust has settled. So Lin Changqing would definitely not tell her the truth directly in such a boring way. Instead, after a brief pause, he said, "Yes. That's right, I went to ask Uncle Ranming for help. After all, it was he who arranged for me to come to Qian Valley, so he must be most familiar with you. So he is the most suitable person to be the matchmaker." Li Xiangting was very satisfied to hear this, so she smiled even more brightly, and then asked, "Then when did you fall in love with me?" There could be no hesitation for this question, so Lin Changqing said directly, "When I first came to Qian Valley, I fell in love with you. That's why I didn't choose you as my disciple, otherwise your cultivation is higher than Qin Zhuan, and you must be more suitable to be a disciple." Li Xiangting couldn't help giggling when she heard it, and she was obviously very happy. But Lin Changqing didn't dare to let her continue asking, so he said, "Xiangting, you have to wait a few years before taking the 3-flower anti-aging pill. Now you have just grown up, if you take it immediately, you will always look like this. So, it's better to wait a few years before using it. I believe that in a few years, you will definitely become more beautiful." Li Xiangting listened, nodded seriously and said, "Okay, I will listen to Brother Qing and take the 3-flower anti-aging pill in a few years." But after she finished speaking, she opened her mouth again. Obviously she had something to say, but was embarrassed to say it out loud. But Lin Changqing had already guessed what she meant, so he stretched out his hand to pinch her cheek, and then took out a delicate little jade box from the spirit beast bracelet. He put it in Li Xiangting's hand. Needless to say, This familiar jade box must contain another anti-aging pill. These anti-aging pills were the spoils of war that were obtained from the storage bag of the patriarch of the Li family when they killed him in Qinghai. Seeing the familiar little jade box in her hand, Li Changqing screamed with excitement, and then excitedly gave Lin Changqing a kiss. For her, with this thing, her mother's beauty will be preserved forever, so she won't have to watch her slowly grow old in the future. This made her happier than the anti-aging pill she got herself, so she was so happy that she kissed Lin Changqing. And suddenly being attacked, Lin Changqing was definitely the one who would fight back, so he held her in his arms and gave her dozens of counterattacks. Li Changqing was made to go limp, her breath was chaotic, and she lay in Lin Changqing's arms with a red face. Lin Changqing was grinning, feeling extremely proud. With so many seals, he wouldn't be afraid that she would run away in the future. Although she is now Lin Changqing's Taoist partner, because of her extremely yin body, it will take a long time for the two of them to really consummate their marriage. But kissing and hugging at ordinary times is definitely no problem. Anyway, just try to seal as many seals as possible in the future. As for the rest, wait until the two of you get more familiar with each other, or wait until they have real feelings for each other, then tell her. Chapter 666, Amethyst Scorpion Advancement. Of course, this must be when Lin Changqing was very sure. After all, he didn't want to tell her about Chen Ziyi and Mu Xiaoxiao. He even had a vague feeling in his heart that maybe the three of them would really meet one day. When Li Changqing recovered completely, she ran away from Lin Changqing's arms. What happened just now was too stimulating for a little girl like her who knew nothing. She had never experienced such an experience before, and it really made her very shy, so she simply ignored Lin Changqing and ran home directly. Her cute panic-stricken look made Lin Changqing laugh, and he felt like a big bad wolf. When Lin Changqing returned to his yard, he suddenly felt that the contract with the purple crystal scorpion in his sea of consciousness was vibrating continuously. It vibrated continuously for a total of 88 times. In an instant, he reacted and realized that it must be his little guys who successfully completed the advancement. So, he quickly released them all, and as expected, as soon as they came out, they turned into purple light and flew around him. Lin Changqing carefully sensed them and found that their current flying speed was about 30% faster than before, and he was very happy. But they had just completed the promotion and were the hungriest. They were all sending him a message, that is, hungry, so Lin Changqing hurriedly got a large piece of third-level monster meat, and then quickly cut it into small pieces and threw it out to feed them. When it was almost done, he put out 2 more spiritual crystals and some spiritual stones for them to gnaw slowly. At this time, Lin Changqing picked up one and observed it at random. He found that after this promotion, the purple color on the purple crystal scorpion was more intense, and they were all about 1 or 2 inches larger. As for the stealth ability, Lin Changqing believed that it must be better. But they were like invisible, and he could know where they were, so he didn't test this ability. The last test was the purple light ray, and Lin Changqing took them to the hill covered by the 9 palaces Yuan Mirage Formation to test it. The test results were amazing. The purple light beam hit the rock, and then he used his spiritual sense to explore the depth. Unexpectedly, the depth was about 5 or 6 feet, which proved that their attack ability was also increased by about 30%. This made Lin Changqing very satisfied. He believed that if all the purple crystal scorpions were deployed, they should be able to deal with a purple mansion cultivator head-on, and there was a great possibility that they would kill the opponent on the spot. Of course, the purple mansion cultivators use magic weapons, so if they were really used to deal with purple mansion cultivators, there would definitely be some damage. This was not what Lin Changqing wanted to see, so he would definitely not be willing to do it unless it was absolutely necessary. And with the current power of the purple crystal scorpion, it would be more than enough to protect Li Qingchuan and deal with Wei Changjin. He was now worried that the power of the purple crystal scorpion was too great, and it might kill people in a few strokes. So he decided to call Li Qingchuan over from tomorrow, let him get familiar with the purple crystal scorpion, and learn some simple ways to control them. In order to avoid that, no one will control the amethyst scorpion, and Wei Changjin will be killed in the sect. The next day, Li Qingchuan came over happily without Lin Changqing's summons. Then he smiled and the first sentence he said was, "Hello, master and brother-in-law." Lin Changqing was speechless. He glared at him and then said, "In front of outsiders, just call me master. When there is no one around, you can call me brother-in-law, but don't call me master and brother-in-law at the same time." It sounds very weird. When Lin Changqing heard him say this, he took it to heart and agreed. In fact, he knew that it was not right to call him that, and he was just joking just now. Lin Changqing continued, "You came just in time. I was going to summon you. You should know that I will leave a means of protection on you, so that no villain can take advantage of you. As for who it might be, I believe you should have an idea in your mind." After he finished speaking, he thought about it, and 4 purple lights flew out from the back garden, and flew around the 2 people at high speed. Because their speed was so fast, Lin Changqing's eyes could hardly keep up. Finally, Lin Changqing stopped the 4 amethyst scorpions for fear of making him dizzy, and showed their true bodies in front of him. Seeing 4 such beautiful spiritual insects that looked like amethysts, Lin Changqing's eyes were really fond of them, and almost had golden stars in them. Lin Changqing didn't care about his useless look, but directly introduced, "Their name is Purple Crystal Scorpion, and they are my most important trump card. The ability of these little guys is invisibility. They are only in the middle stage of the 2nd stage now, but I believe that even the Purple Mansion cultivators can't find them. I believe that you will definitely meet Purple Mansion cultivators in the trading square in the future. Try them and you will know whether I am exaggerating or not. As for their flying ability, you have seen it just now. It is probably a little faster than the ordinary foundation building great perfection. The last one is the most important attack ability. Come with me." After speaking, Lin Changqing brought his brother-in-law to the place where the purple light ray was tested yesterday. Let him see with his own eyes how powerful the purple light ray is. The final test result made him stunned. Then Lin Changqing continued, "This purple light ray is a mixed spell. You have seen its power, so I won't say much. But the most important thing is the soul attack that comes with a ray. Once hit by this ray, the only feeling is pain, heart-wrenching pain, and it can even kill people alive. But these little guys have recently completed their advancement, so their power is several levels greater than before. Normally speaking, with the power of the rays they are now firing, no matter what level of cultivation they are in the key refining stage, as long as they are hit once, they will definitely die. And Wei Changzhen, a fake great perfection, can only take 2 hits at best, and by the 3rd time, he will definitely die. So you must control it well. Whenever you have time in the next few days, come and stay with them. Try to get familiar with them and make them understand what you mean. And at the very least, you must be able to make them attack, recall them, or stop them from continuing to attack. Do you understand?" Chapter 667 Trading Plaza. Hearing Lin Changqing say this, Lin Changqing was so excited that his face flushed. Only after experiencing some things, will you understand the importance of strength and of a deep desire for power. And this powerful spiritual insect is really in line with his heart. But his brother-in-law actually left them on him to protect him, which is really good for him. So he said excitedly, "Thank you, brother-in-law, you are really good to me. I must try my best to control them and try not to cause trouble for your brother-in-law." Lin Changqing nodded and said, "Okay, you don't have spiritual consciousness yet, you can only control them by speaking. So during this period of time, you should get to know each other first. After confirming that there is no problem, you can go out to sell spiritual materials." In fact, what Lin Changqing wanted most was to go out. Now there is such a powerful spiritual insect to protect him, and the motivation is even more sufficient. So after agreeing, he invested great enthusiasm and began to get familiar with and train with the purple crystal scorpion. And Lin Changqing has already given a death order, instructing the purple crystal scorpion not to attack him and to cooperate with his orders as much as possible. As for the rest, it depends on Lin Changqing's own efforts. Lin Changqing did not stay here to accompany him, but went back to practice by himself. After all, cultivation is the foundation of everything. 3 days later, Lin Changqing finally came to him and told him that he had cooperated perfectly with the amethyst scorpion. He also performed for Lin Changqing on the spot to confirm that he really had no problem. So Lin Changqing finally agreed that the 2 of them would go to the trading square together tomorrow. Hearing the news, Lin Changqing was extremely excited, like a bird out of a cage. So he did not stay with Lin Changqing for too long, but ran back to tell his mother and sister the news. The next morning, Lin Changqing had just completed his daily practice task when the 3 people of the Li family came to his yard. This was the first time that the mother and daughter of the Li family met him after they confirmed their relationship. When Li Xiangting saw him, her face turned red and she became shy again, but Yuan Qingyan was very considerate. As soon as they met, she said to Lin Changqing, Changqing, thank you for your 3 flowers rejuvenating pill. I like it very much, so I accepted it shamelessly. By the way, is it okay for me to call you like this? For the sake of convenience, you can call me Aunt Yan in the future. Lin Changqing was very thick-skinned now, and immediately said with a smile, okay Aunt Yan, no problem, you can call me like this in the future. The 3 flowers rejuvenating pill was originally prepared for you, but it was not convenient to take it out at the time, so I asked Xiangting to send it to you. At this time, Li Qinshan also came over and said, then brother-in-law, they all have gifts, why don't I have one? Lin Changqing was stunned for a moment, as if he had really not considered this issue. However, he reacted very quickly, rolled his eyes at him and said, I have thought about it for you a long time ago, but there is no ready-made one now. I will give it to you after I come back from the trading square. Seeing that he had successfully asked for a gift, Li Qinshan was also very happy, and thanked Lin Changqing with a playful smile. At this time, Li Xiangting glared at her brother. He said, Xiaochuan, be more stable, especially when you are outside, don't cause trouble for your brother-in-law. Seeing that Li Xiangting's arm had turned towards him, Lin Changqing couldn't help laughing. Then he said, it's okay, I should have prepared a gift for him. By the way, this opportunity is rare, don't stay here, go with us. As soon as Lin Changqing's voice fell, Li Xiangting asked in surprise, is this really okay? Will it be too troublesome? Lin Changqing said in a positive tone, of course, I will accompany you, nothing will happen. At this time, Muren Qingyan and Li Qinshan also spoke up to agree that she should go together. Just like that, Li Xiangting agreed with expectation. And the next thing is the key point, so Lin Changqing's heart moved, and 4 purple lights flew out from the back garden. They flew around the crowd at high speed for several circles, and then landed on Li Qinshan's shoulders and disappeared in an instant. Muren Qingyan and Li Xiangting were stunned, and then Lin Changqing let them show up and gave them a brief introduction of the purple crystal scorpion. The two believed that these 4 little things could protect Li Qinshan's safety, and they voluntarily swore to help Lin Changqing keep the secret. Seeing that they were relieved, Lin Changqing did not waste time and asked Muren Qingyan to look after Qian Valley. The 3 of them set off. Li Qinshan sat on Chuai's back alone, while Lin Changqing flew with Li Xiangting on the sword. With Li Qinshan's guidance, the 3 flew directly to the trading square. Along the way, Lin Changqing hugged his Taoist partner, which made Li Xiangting blush again. But after blushing, she became bolder and dared to reach out and hold Lin Changqing's hand. After flying for about an hour and a half, they finally saw a town that looked like a market. The center of the town was a huge square, and many pavilions and shops were built around the square. Isn't this a small or medium-sized market? Lin Changqing could not help but become interested in this place. The 3 people did not fly in directly, but landed outside the town. Then they walked in from an entrance. There was no one guarding the door, and they could enter and exit freely. Yes, here are all disciples from the inner and outer sects of Xianshu sect, and their identities are very clear, so there is no need to send someone else to guard. Lin Changqing took the 2 of them and walked a distance inside. It was confirmed again that this was basically a market, and there was no difference from the market outside. When they arrived here, Li Qinshan looked even more excited, running in front to lead the way for them, while Lin Changqing held Li Xiangting and followed him. Not long after, the 3 of them arrived at a huge square, and immediately saw rows and rows of hundreds or thousands of stalls. And there were many fellow disciples strolling in front of these stalls. After Lin Changqing asked Li Qinshan, he learned that there was no need to pay any fees to set up a stall here. So, he handed him a storage bag that he had prepared in advance, but suggested that he should first understand the market conditions here before setting up the stall. After Li Qinshan took it, he went in with great enthusiasm to inquire about the market conditions. Lin Changqing took Li Xiangting back, because he saw the Shenshu pavilion when he passed by just now. He believed that there should be what he needed in it. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 668 Goodbye Halo Items. When the 2 walked into the Shenshu pavilion hand in hand, a young fellow disciple came up to greet them. He said, "Welcome, uncle and sister, to the Shenshu pavilion of the sect. What do you need?" Lin Changqing nodded and said, I want 2 magic tools similar to the Living Pearl and 2 top-grade defensive magic tools. Do you have them here? The young fellow disciple hurriedly said. Yes, uncle and sister, please come here, I will get them for you. After that, he took them to a small private room, and waited for the maid to serve spiritual tea before leaving to get things for them. Lin Changqing said to Li Xiangting, if you have anything you want, tell me, I will buy it for you. Li Xiangting saw that he was still holding her hand at this time, and couldn't help but say with some love, I seem to have everything, don't waste spiritual stones on me. After listening to Lin Changqing, he didn't say anything else. After a while, the fellow disciple came back with a tray. After sitting down, he introduced them to each other. He first picked up 2 white pearls and introduced them to Lin Changqing. Uncle Master, these 2 are first-level water shadow pearls. After a little sacrifice and refining, they will have the effect of leaving a shadow. I wonder if they are suitable for you. Lin Changqing used his spiritual sense to scan all 4 items and soon had an idea in his mind. Then he said, these 2 water shadow pearls and 2 top-grade defensive magic tools are good. You don't need to introduce them anymore. Just calculate how many spirit stones they cost. The young fellow disciple immediately smiled and said, Uncle Master, you are generous. A total of 3,600 low-grade spirit stones. Lin Changqing nodded and poured out the spirit stones to him without any nonsense. Then he took the things and took Li Xiangting out of the Shenshu pavilion and walked towards the trading square again. At this time, Li Qinshan didn't know where he had gone. So Lin Changqing said, let's just take a look around and see what we have here. At this time, it can be seen that Li Xiangting was also a little excited. In fact, she also liked this lively environment very much. So she nodded to him expectantly, so Lin Changqing let her go and let her walk in front, while Lin Changqing followed behind her. Lin Changqing was already very experienced in shopping at the street stalls. He had been there with his mother and aunt at the beginning, and Chen Ziyai also often shopped together. Now he had accumulated a wealth of experience, so he divided his attention half on Li Xiangting. The other half was on the stalls around him. In fact, he just glanced at them and looked at whether there were any items with auras. If not, he would look at whether there were any items that interested him, and if not, he would go to the next stall. So the speed was still quite fast, while Li Xiangting looked here and there and could not move fast at all. However, Lin Changqing did not urge her. It was rare for her to come out once, so he would not do such a thing that would spoil the fun. Although he looked at it slowly, after 2 hours, they had looked at more than 2/3 of the stalls. Li Xiangting bought a lot of seeds of spiritual plants and flowers, as well as several small jewelry and some beautiful decorations. All of these were lingxi that Lin Changqing paid for. Although there were a lot of things, he didn't spend many lingxi, probably only a few hundred. On the contrary, Lin Changqing looked at so many stalls, but there was nothing that caught his eye. However, at the next stall, his luck came. Because he finally saw a halo item, and this thing emitted a colorful halo. It was a pile of very strange things, like models made of clay, and there were several piled together. The one that emitted the colorful halo was the model of one of the caves and medicine gardens. But the overall look was gray and felt like it was very old, as if all the colors had faded. Anyway, at a glance, there was a very strong sense of dilapidation. Lin Changqing first glanced at the stall owner and found that he was a young cultivator in the key refining period. He felt that he should not be the kind of stall owner that was difficult to deal with. So he asked directly, my friend, what are these things? Can I take a look at them? The stall owner sensed Lin Changqing's aura and quickly replied respectfully, Uncle, you can take a look at them at will. This is a certain uncle in the sect that was found in an ancient monk's cave. It should be some decorative models. But the aura on it is very simple and rustic. If you like it, you can pay 100 low-grade spirit stones for each model. Lin Changqing nodded, without saying much, but directly selected 2, and then paid 200 low-grade spirit stones to the stall owner. Then he put the things into the storage bag and continued to stroll with Li Xiangting. In fact, he was very disappointed now. He thought it was another space treasure, but he didn't expect that it could be successfully put into the storage bag. That proved that this thing should not have much to do with the space attribute. But he didn't show it on his face, but just like before, he was very interested in accompanying Li Xiangting to stroll around. In fact, Lin Changqing had already begun to guess in his heart what was in that model. Thinking of several possibilities, he felt like he was scratched by a cat. After another hour of shopping, They finally finished shopping. Li Changqing had a lot of gains, while Lin Changqing only got 2 worn-out models. The two also looked at Lin Changqing. Like the others, he also spread a piece of cloth on the ground and put a pile of second-level spiritual materials on it. And every cultivator who passed by him, he wished that they could stop and learn about the spiritual materials on his stall. When he saw Lin Changqing and the others, Lin Changqing excitedly told them that he had sold a tortoise shell of the star turtle for 1,800 sect contribution points. Seeing that he was so excited, Lin Changqing and the others praised and encouraged him tacitly. This time he was really like a chicken blood. Lin Changqing took the opportunity to hand over all the 4 magic tools he had just bought to him. He asked him to start the sacrifice and refinement now, while Lin Changqing and Li Changqing were guarding him by his side. After he had finished refining the 2 water shadow pearls, Lin Changqing taught him to embed the water shadow pearls on the belt. This way, when he needed to take a picture, he could just use his spiritual energy to activate it. Moreover, this way, without any special movements, it was very concealed and not easy to attract attention. Chapter 669, 100 Miles of Jiaolong Sea. For the rest of the time, Lin Changqing and the other person did not go anywhere, and stayed here with Lin Changqing. Of course, Lin Changqing's main purpose was to let everyone in this trading square know there was someone behind Lin Changqing, so that he would not be bullied by others when doing business here. The 3 of them stayed until it was almost dark, and most of the people began to pack up their stalls. Then they left the trading square together and returned to Qian Valley. Today, Lin Changqing was lucky enough to sell 2 tortoise shells of the star turtle. He earned a total of 720 sect contribution points for himself. Such a harvest is very huge for a young cultivator in the key refining period. After all, these sect contribution points are equivalent to 3,600 low-grade spirit stones. So this made Lin Changqing very excited, and he told Lin Changqing that he wanted to come out to set up a stall earlier tomorrow. Unfortunately, Lin Changqing did not allow it, and also stipulated that he must complete the daily practice tasks before he can come out to sell spirit materials. And in the future, he must return to Qian Valley 1 hour in advance, and he can't wait until the end of the show before packing up and leaving. Otherwise, he will not be provided with spiritual objects for the stall, so he honestly agreed. In fact, he was not the only one who felt very happy and fulfilled today. Li Changqing's situation was similar to his. Anyway, today was the happiest day she had had since her father passed away more than a year ago. So when the 2 siblings returned to Qian Valley, they ran to their mother to share today's harvest. At this time, the 4 purple crystal scorpions on Lin Changqing's shoulders suddenly turned into 4 purple lights and fell into Lin Changqing's back garden. And Shuai also went back to find Chuer, which was a decision Lin Changqing had just made. Because this can prevent Lin Changqing from not following his rules and not practicing early in the morning, and secretly running out to set up a stall to earn spiritual stones. After all, Lin Changqing is now his brother-in-law, and he doesn't want to delay his practice because of a little spiritual stone. But now Lin Changqing's attention is still focused on the 2 broken clay models. After returning to his room, he immediately took out the 2 models and studied the one without the halo first. He found that mana could not be input into it at all. Whether it was thunder mana or chaos mana, the result was the same. He used his spiritual sense to check carefully and found that the spiritual sense could not penetrate into the interior of the clay model. He guessed that the clay should have the function of isolation detection. In the end, Lin Changqing had no choice but to pinch the clay model directly with his hands. Unexpectedly, the model was immediately crushed by him. After all, he was a 3rd-level physical cultivator. If he moved casually, it would be tens of thousands of pounds of force. He was also mentally prepared for things to be crushed by him. Since this was the case, he simply dismantled the entire model, but did not find anything inside. Now he was 100% sure that these models had no practical use and were really just decorations in the past. So he was no longer so cautious about the clay model with the halo. But still, he tried both mana and spiritual sense first, and confirmed that it was no different from the previous model. So he simply crushed the clay model bit by bit from the outermost part. Unexpectedly, he actually found a thumb-sized black stone in the center of the model. But in Lin Changqing's eyes, it exuded a rich colorful aura. He took the black stone in his hand and weighed it. The weight was very light. It felt like a feather. It might really weigh less than 1 or 2 taels. This thing was so light that it had nothing to do with the treasures he had just guessed. According to the existing external features, there was no way to judge what kind of treasure it was. But he knew that this thing could be hidden so carefully, it must be a very precious treasure. So he took the stone in his hand and tried to inject chaos magic into it. Unexpectedly, at this time, a huge and irresistible force suddenly pulled Lin Changqing directly into the stone. After a slight dizziness, Lin Changqing recovered instantly, but the light around him was too dim. So his first reaction was to activate 2 defensive magic weapons and search the surroundings carefully with his spiritual sense. But after waiting for a while and not being attacked, he carefully sent out all his spiritual sense. Then he found that he had landed on a small island. He also found the limit of his spiritual sense. The area within 5 miles around was all sea. And there was nothing around, only the small island where he was now, but this island was not big, with a diameter of just over 1 mile. Fortunately, in the center of this small island, he found something special, a stone tablet more than 10 feet high. So Lin Changqing immediately flew there on his sword and took out a few pieces of glow stones from the spirit beast bracelet. Then he immediately saw that there were 5 vigorous and ancient large characters on the front of the stone tablet, and it was 100 miles of Jiaolongxi after careful identification. There were also some words on the back. After reading it, Lin Changqing realized that this black stone was a secret treasure of a sect a long time ago. This thing was specially used to breed Jiaolong, but unfortunately, when they came out in full force and fought with other sects, the Jiaolong army was wiped out. After the entire sect was defeated, they were hunted down and cleared out. In the end, only a small number of the sect's true descendants were left. They took the inheritance and treasures and escaped through various methods. They wanted to make a comeback, but unfortunately, they all disappeared later. After figuring out the origin of this treasure, Lin Changqing couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. It turned out that this was just a large spiritual beast breeding farm. However, he still held the idea of just in case, and began to search everywhere in this Jiaolongxi. The range of 100 miles is actually not too large for a cultivator who can fly. Lin Changqing only took more than 2 hours to search the entire area and the sea. There are indeed some common low-level fish monsters in the sea, but none of them are above the 2nd level. So for Lin Changqing, these monsters are not of much value. Moreover, after searching around, he did not find any natural treasures that caught his eye, which was extremely disappointing. Chapter 670, Dragon Horn. In fact, in his opinion, the most appropriate use of this Bailey Jiaolongxi might be to give it to Lin Changqiu to devour. This would enhance Lin Changqiu's strength, and perhaps it would help it break through to the 4th level in one fell swoop. In that case, it could also give back some cultivation to Lin Changqing. Unfortunately, he lost contact with Lin Changqiu, and he didn't know when it would be able to return to Lin Changqing again. With disappointment and depression, Lin Changqing returned to the island again. Suddenly, an idea came to him, and he found that he was really in the dark. There was actually one place that had not been searched, that is, the part below the sea surface of this island, which had not been explored. Sure enough, when he looked below, he soon found a dark underwater cave entrance, but Lin Changqing was not afraid. He took out some glowstones, enhanced the light a little, and then touched it directly. The whole cave was not very deep. It was only about 100 or 200 feet. After entering the innermost part, he found that the space here was very large, with a diameter of about 5 miles. However, there was nothing here as he imagined, only a skeleton of a Jiaolong that was almost completely decayed. But this skeleton is very huge, about 70 feet long. You can imagine how huge it would be if this behemoth was still alive. But now there is only a pile of bones without any spiritual energy. But Lin Changqing was unwilling to give up and wanted to go up to check the dragon horn on its forehead. Unexpectedly, just a light touch, the whole skeleton immediately scattered all over the ground, which was convenient for him. He dragged the whole dragon horn out directly and found that it was very strong and heavy. It felt at least 7,000 to 8,000 pounds. And the length was about 33 feet. The thickest part required him to hold it with both hands. The tip was the size of a fist. Although this thing can't feel a little spiritual fluctuation now, Lin Changqing thinks it must be useful. After all, it is a dragon horn. Although it is just a dragon horn, if it doesn't work, it will be good to turn it into a close combat weapon for physical cultivation in the future. So Lin Changqing put it in the storage bag. The other bones are really useless, and he doesn't like it. However, Lin Changqing was still unwilling to give up, so he began to search carefully in the cave bit by bit. Although there were indeed some discoveries, they were no longer useful. Because what he found were 3 dragon eggs that had completely lost their vitality many years ago. Because they were buried underground in the cave, they are now basically petrified. In this way, the only gain of his trip was a dragon horn without any spiritual energy. Returning to the stone tablet on the island, he pressed the stone tablet and input chaotic mana into it. Soon, the huge suction force appeared again and sucked Lin Changqing into the stone tablet. After he was slightly dizzy, he found himself back in the room, but the black stone fell to the ground. After he picked it up, he tried to put it into an empty storage bag, and found that it really couldn't fit in. He had a feeling that if he forced it in, the storage bag would definitely explode immediately, and then the spirit beast bracelet would not fit in either. So Lin Changqing could only keep this thing close to his body, but fortunately it was not heavy. After tossing around in the Bailey Jialong Sea for so long, it was already late at night outside. I don't know if anyone came to find him during this period of time. But even if someone came to find him, it would be nothing. At most, he just needed to say that he was going to just the 9 palaces Yuan Mirage formation. So after Lin Changqing practiced a Thunder Sutra, he laid down to rest. The next day, after he completed the practice task, Lin Changqing was already waiting for him. After confirming that he had completed the practice, he handed over the 4 purple crystal scorpions and Chui to him, and supplemented him with some other spiritual materials. They were all Lin Changqing's spoils of war before, and then Lin Changqing set off with full passion. After a while, Muren Qingyuan and Li Xiangting also came. Now they have become a family, so everyone gets along more casually. After the 3 of them sat down in the back garden, Muren Qingyuan asked directly, "Changqing, how are you going to deal with your and Tinger's affairs?" Lin Changqing reacted quickly and knew that she was talking about inviting people to come over for a small gathering and giving them witnesses. So Lin Changqing said, "Aunt Yan, I have just come to Xiangshu sect not long ago. I haven't made many friends in the outer sect during this time, most of them are just casual acquaintances. The situation in the inner sect is similar. I estimate that by then, the number of people invited by the inner and outer sects will be at most 3 or 5. So if you have any important guests, you can all come in, I support you." Muren Qingyuan shook her head and said, "Xiangting's father did have several good friends when he was alive. But he is gone, and people are gone. If it is not necessary, I don't want to go to those people anymore and trouble them." Lin Changqing listened and nodded to show that he understood her approach. After all, after getting along for a period of time, he also understood who the 3 members of the Li family were. So he didn't find it strange that they made this decision. So Muren Qingyuan continued, "Then let's keep a low profile. Invite a few friends to come over for a small gathering, and I'll witness it for you, and that'll be the ceremony?" Lin Changqing nodded and said, "Then let's do as Aunt Yan said. You choose a suitable day. Starting tomorrow, I'll go out and notify those fellow disciples who have a little friendship. By the way, I'll buy some wine and spiritual fruits for the small gathering." After thinking for a while, Muren Qingyuan said, "How about 3 days later? It happens to be a festive day." Lin Changqing didn't care. He didn't care about this anyway, but Muren Qingyuan had checked it in advance and thought it should be a good day. So Lin Changqing and Li Xiangting had no objection to this time, so the matter was settled. Then Muren Qingyuan left on the pretext of something, leaving the space for the 2 of them. Fortunately, the 2 of them had been in close contact for a whole day yesterday, and they were very familiar with each other. In addition, Lin Changqing was thick-skinned and experienced, and the 2 people's personalities were actually a bit similar. So they drank tea and chatted, and they were very happy together. It was not until the evening when Lin Changqing came back that Li Xiangting reluctantly got up and left. Chapter 671, Someone is Following Me. The next day, Lin Changqing got up early on purpose and completed the basic cultivation tasks. Lin Changqing happened to come over. Yesterday, he sold a tortoise shell of the star-shaped turtle and 2 ordinary second-grade spiritual materials. He earned himself 600 sect contribution points, so now, he is really enthusiastic about going to the trading square to sell spiritual materials. Therefore, although he knew that Lin Changqing needed more time to practice than him, he was willing to come and wait. It happened that Lin Changqing got up earlier today and they were going in similar directions, so they went out together. When they arrived at the trading square, Lin Changqing went straight in to set up a stall. while Lin Changqing went to the Shenshu pavilion inside. He bought a lot of ordinary second-grade spiritual wine, plus some common spiritual fruits, and consumed a total of 6,000 low-grade spiritual stones. After finishing these, he adjusted his direction and flew towards the outer gate. The first person he wanted to visit was Reincarnated, the insect cultivator he met in the last 10-year competition. At that time, they were acquainted with each other. Later, Reincarnated specially left him the address of the cave. So Lin Changqing decided to visit him first this time. After all, he also recognized his strength. After flying for more than an hour, he finally arrived at the door of Reincarnated's cave, but here, there was also a second-level formation. Therefore, Lin Changqing gently touched the prohibition on the formation, and then waited patiently outside. Fortunately, he didn't wait long. After a short while, Reincarnated came out. When he saw that it was Lin Changqing who came outside the door, he was really enthusiastic. Then he took him into the cave hand in hand, and took out a lot of spiritual wine and spiritual fruits to greet him. Lin Changqing was almost scared by his enthusiasm. So after 3 rounds of drinking, he quickly told him the purpose of coming to him this time, otherwise he would be drunk by him. Unexpectedly, Reincarnated agreed without hesitation and said that he would arrive on time the day after tomorrow. After Lin Changqing left the specific address of Qian Valley, he slipped away on the pretext of continuing to invite his friends. The second person to visit was Zhao Chuanhe, and his strength was not weak. Lin Changqing was also very impressed with him, and he told him a lot of useful information at that time. So he was the second person to visit, and he received a very warm welcome when he arrived. The two sat down as host and guest, and while tasting the spiritual tea, Zhao Chuanhe chatted about what had happened during this period of time. He told Lin Changqing that he was going to complete the border mission next month and invited him to form a team. However, Lin Changqing refused on the pretext that he had just completed 3 tasks. Zhao Chuanhe didn't care, but told him that if he went to the border in the future, he could go to him first to find out the situation. Lin Changqing also took the opportunity to invite him to participate in the small party, and Zhao Chuanhe immediately agreed. After all, Lin Changqing was a fellow disciple that he was very optimistic about. He would definitely not refuse if he just attended a small gathering and witnessed it by the way. After Lin Changqing got his affirmative answer, he left the address of Qian Valley and said goodbye and left. The third visitor was the 5 brothers of the Song family. It happened that they were also gathered together, and they all readily agreed to attend this small gathering. So there were 7 guests. Lin Changqing thought of another one, Guo Shuking. But he didn't know where Guo Shuking's cave was. So he ran directly to the General Affairs Hall outside, and found him there. After a round of small talk, Lin Changqing invited him, and he was flattered to agree. After a few hours, all the guests from the outer gate had been dealt with. So Lin Changqing flew directly to the General Affairs Hall of the inner gate. Although he didn't like the man's surname Zhao, no matter what, that person had helped the 3 members of the Li family before. So Lin Changqing had to invite him to participate in terms of emotion and reason. Unfortunately, when he found him in the General Affairs Hall, he was rejected for some reason. This is good. He probably knew that Lin Changqing and he didn't get along, so he simply refused to participate. And here, another senior brother who had once given Lin Changqing advice was said to have gone to the border, so he had to give up. So his guests the day after tomorrow were only 8 friends from the outer sect, but this was enough. He had only planned to have 3 or 5 people, but now he had exceeded the task. And now the time was almost right, so he could just go and meet up with Li Qinchuan and return to Qian Valley together. But when Lin Changqing arrived at the trading square, Li Qinchuan had already left, so he could only rush over from behind to meet up. But after rushing for half an hour, Lin Changqing found that something was wrong. Because in his consciousness, there was a figure following Li Qinchuan about a mile behind him. But that person was not Wei Changzhen, but just an inner sect disciple in the middle stage of foundation building. After discovering this situation, Lin Changqing followed them all the way to the gate of Qian Valley, and the man did not make a move. Lin Changqing even doubted whether he was just a fellow disciple passing by. However, Lin Changqing followed the man and found that he just flew over Qian Valley for a distance and then turned back. At this time, he was 100% sure that the man was responsible for following Li Qinchuan. But now Lin Changqing still couldn't figure out whether the person behind the scenes was Wei Changzhen. However, Since he had already discovered it, Lin Changqing couldn't just sit back and watch, so he followed him instead. After flying a long distance, he found that he entered a cave and never came out again. This cave was very ordinary. Lin Changqing guessed that this should be his own cave. So after noting this place, he returned to Qian Valley. At this time, it was already dark. He had been out for a whole day and hadn't come back. The three people of the Li family were very worried and had been waiting for him. Now that he was back, they hurried up to ask what was going on. Lin Changqing told them about the successful invitation of 8 guests and asked them to prepare in advance. Then he sent Muren Qingyan and Li Xiangting away, leaving Li Qingshuan alone. At this time, Lin Changqing told Li Qingshuan what he had just discovered. Unexpectedly, after hearing it, he was not afraid at all, and even felt a little eager to try. However, when Lin Changqing saw his performance, he was completely relieved. Chapter 672, Surprise from the Old Drunkard. If Li Qingshuan showed fear after hearing this, Lin Changqing would not let him go out. But now, seeing that he was eager to try, he knew that he must want to show off in front of him. But, it was precisely because of this confident state that Lin Changqing dared to let him go out. Because if that person really took action at that time, with Li Qingshuan's current mentality, plus 4 second stage mid-stage purple crystal scorpions, as long as they performed stably, they would definitely be able to get rid of that person. So Lin Changqing decided to let Li Qingshuan go out to the trading square to set up a stall and earn spirit stones. Besides, he was prepared, so he would definitely not be easily taken, and there was no reason to guard against thieves for 1,000 days. He was doing this now, and it was also meant to lure the snake out of the hole. If the venomous snake did not move at all, it would be very troublesome. But it would be best if the person who took action could be captured alive and handed over to the law enforcement pavilion at that time. Maybe something interesting would happen. Thinking of this, Lin Changqing told Li Qingshuan his idea. He also agreed very readily and promised to leave one alive as much as possible. Then the two of them discussed some emergencies and ways to deal with them, and then Li Qingshuan said goodbye and went back to rest. The next day was also calm and nothing happened. But with Lin Changqing's reminder yesterday, Li Qingshuan had already seen the person who was following him. And he intentionally or unintentionally used the water shadow pearl on his body to leave evidence. The third day was the day that Lin Changqing and the others chose for a small gathering. So on this day, Li Qingshuan did not go out, but stayed to help his mother. Among all the guests, the first and most active ones to come were the 5 brothers of the Song family. Next, Ye Qianzong and Zhao Chuanhe came together, and Guo Shuking came alone at last. Each of them came and was warmly welcomed by Lin Changqing and the 3 members of the Li family, and each of them came and prepared valuable gifts. Lin Changqing asked Li Xiangting to put them away, but to keep a record, because if they had anything in the future, Lin Changqing and the others would also need to return the gifts. The place to entertain guests was placed in the back garden, where the environment was beautiful and there was a pavilion, which was just right for a small gathering of friends. Lin Changqing formally introduced Li Xiangting to everyone as a Taoist partner, as a witness. After that, he took out all the things he had prepared, including the bottles of good wine that he had left behind when he went out to do a mission last time. This was the best for Ye Qianzong's taste. After all, he was also a person who liked to drink. Lin Changqing was almost drunk by him yesterday. This party lasted from morning till evening, and all the guests were sent away when it was almost dark. At this time, Lin Changqing and the others finally breathed a sigh of relief. For them, it was considered a big deal. After all the guests left, including Li Qingshuan, who was also beaten away by his mother. At this time, there were only Muren Qingyan, Li Xiangting, and Lin Changqing left in his yard. Lin Changqing and the others knew that Muren Qingyan had something to say to them, so they were waiting patiently. Finally, it was Muren Qingyan who spoke directly. Changqing, you should know that Tinger has a 5-yin body, right? What are your plans now? Lin Changqing nodded and said, Aunt Yen, I know about Xiangting. And I have also thought about it. I plan not to consummate the marriage with Xiangting in the short term, and save her yin energy to help me impact the golden elixir in the future. Unexpectedly, Muren Qingyan frowned immediately after hearing this, and said in a very affirmative tone, No, I don't agree with you doing this. Lin Changqing did not expect that his mother-in-law would react so strongly, so he could not help but ask, Aunt Yen, why don't you agree? Muren Qingyan glanced at the two of them, and then said, First, you are only in the late stage of foundation building. You haven't even reached the Purple Mansion stage yet, but you have already considered the matter of the golden elixir. Don't you think it's a bit too far-fetched? Second, have you ever thought about how much time it will take? It will take at least 100 or 200 years, right? It may even be more than that. Do you think Tinger can wait until then? Third, even if she really can wait until then. But do you think that when that time comes, there will be no other people with higher cultivation who will come to take advantage of Tinger? So what I mean is that you can stay for a while, but it's better to use it to help you break through the Purple Mansion. What do you think? After listening to this, Lin Changqing was silent for a while, and then said, Aunt Yan, to be honest, I am basically sure that I can break through to the Purple Mansion period. There will be absolutely no problem, so if Xiangting's Yuan Nine key is really used for this, it can be said to be a great waste. Moreover, in the past few days, after I have collected enough contribution points for the sect, I will exchange it for a high-level technique suitable for Xiangting's treasure body to practice. In that case, her future cultivation will grow very fast. At that time, breaking through to the foundation building, Purple Mansion, or even the golden elixir stage will not be a big problem. So you don't have to worry about it. As for the last question, I think that as long as Xiangting doesn't leave Xianshu sect casually, there shouldn't be too many problems. After listening to this, Reincarnated just shook her head, obviously not agreeing with what Lin Changqing said. At this time, Li Xiangting next to her suddenly laughed, and then said, Brother Qing, Mother, you don't have to worry. In fact, this problem has been solved for us by Grandmaster Ranming. Reincarnated and Lin Changqing were very surprised to hear her say this. Could this kind of problem be solved? So, Reincarnated hurriedly asked, Tinger, don't keep me in suspense. Tell me quickly, what is going on? Then Lin Changqing also asked, isn't it the jade slip that the old drunkard gave us at that time? Lin Changqing was so excited that he directly said the 3 words old drunkard. Li Xiangting glared at him, and then said, Brother Qing, I don't allow you to say that about Grandmaster Renming. Moreover, he not only helped our family, but also came forward to match the 2 of us. So you can't say that about him, it seems too disrespectful to him. Chapter 673, The Art of Nourishing Qi. Hearing what Li Xiangting said, Lin Changqing quickly admitted his mistake and said, Okay. I know I was wrong. And I won't say that again. However, although I call him an old drunkard, I respect him very much in my heart, and I don't have any other meanings. And in my opinion, calling him an old drunkard and calling him an old man are actually the same, since they both have the word old in them. Hearing him talking nonsense with his eyes open, Reincarnated and her daughter couldn't help but putchy, and then burst into laughter. Of course, Lin Changqing said this to ease the atmosphere. After all, Reincarnated had been very determined to oppose Lin Changqing's plan just now. Now they couldn't help laughing, and the atmosphere between the 3 people at the scene was relatively relaxed. After laughing, Li Xiangting spoke up. The jade slip that Grandmaster Ranming gave us last time contained a precious secret technique called the art of cultivating qi. Its function is to transfer a certain special qi in the body to a suitable place for cultivation. When needed, it can be released all at once. So Brother Qing and I don't have to wait so long, we can. At this point, Li Xiangting's face was already very red. However, the other 2 people present also understood what she was going to say next. Reincarnated breathed a sigh of relief after hearing this. Because in her opinion, if this is the case, as long as this secret technique is not leaked out, no one should have any ideas about her daughter again. After all, for a cultivator, this is a very obvious thing. It is still easy to distinguish between a girl and a young woman by just observing their temperament. Lin Changqing also nodded and said, it seems that Uncle Ranming has helped us a lot again. If we have the chance in the future, we must repay him well. If not, if we go out to do tasks in the future, we should pay more attention to the local spiritual wine bar. Buy some to honor him, which is also a little reward for us. Hearing him say this, Reincarnated and her daughter both nodded in agreement. Lin Changqing continued, Xiangting, is there any special requirement for practicing the secret technique you mentioned? Li Xiangting nodded and said, yes, this secret technique, the special spiritual energy that is nurtured, requires the use of spiritual energy or mana of the same origin and attribute to nurture. Lin Changqing understood it as soon as he heard it. In this case, the matter of exchanging Li Xiangting for the yin attribute technique must be accelerated. Then let Lin Changqing inquire about the news tomorrow to see if anyone can exchange a large number of sect contribution points. So he said to him, "Okay, I got it. Don't worry. I will exchange this 1 yen yu mingju for your practice as soon as possible." After hearing this, Li Xiangting said a little worriedly, "To exchange this technique, you need 120,000 sect contribution points, which is too much? Brother Qing, otherwise you can exchange it for me for a yin yuju, which only requires 15,000 sect contribution points. If I practice this technique, the effect should be similar. This way, I don't have to waste so many sect contribution points." Hearing this, Lin Changqing couldn't help laughing and stretched out his hand to pinch her cheek. Then he said, "Don't worry. It's best to practice the technique first, otherwise it will be too troublesome to change it later. Besides, we have already discussed that when the time comes, we will exchange this technique in the name of Uncle Ranming. Basically, we don't need so many contribution points. And in the next few days, I can collect all the contribution points, you just wait to practice." Hearing Lin Changqing say this, Li Xiangting was relieved. At this time, Murin Qingyan said again, "Since you have become a Taoist couple now, then wait for Tinger, move over here. As for how you arrange it yourself, I don't care." Hearing her say this, Li Xiangting's face turned red all of a sudden. Lin Changqing was very thick-skinned and just laughed dryly a few times. After that, Murin Qingyan took Li Xiangting back. After a long time, Li Xiangting came back with a redder face. At a glance, it was clear that it must be her mother-in-law who taught her some experience. But he could only pretend that he didn't know about this. Lin Changqing took her hand and sent her to her room. Then he left her there to clean up. This place was originally where their family lived. Li Xiangting was more familiar with every plant and tree here than he was. Lin Changqing went to another room to complete the practice of the Thunder Sutra and clean his body before returning to his room. But this time when he came back, he found that this place had changed a lot. It was so much warmer than when he lived there. Sure enough, you still need a woman by your side to live a decent life. At this time, Li Xiangting had not rested yet. In fact, she had been very nervous, waiting for Lin Changqing to come back. When she saw him, Li Xiangting blushed and whispered, "Brother Qing, it's late at night, let's rest." The voice was so soft that if he hadn't been paying attention, he might have missed it. But seeing that she was so shy, Lin Changqing couldn't bear to tease her anymore, but stepped forward and hugged her gently in his arms, then turned off the lights and rested. Unexpectedly, Li Xiangting gave him a big surprise. Many indescribable things happened here, and 20,000 words were omitted here. As for what happened, everyone can use their imagination boldly and guess slowly. Although the two did not consummate their marriage, for Lin Changqing, the effect was similar. So the next day, when Lin Changqing got up, he felt relaxed and refreshed. When Li Qingshuan came over, Lin Changqing told him to pay more attention to powerful fellow disciples in the trading square, and he wanted to exchange some sect contribution points. Li Qingshuan also knew the purpose of his brother-in-law exchanging these contribution points, so he agreed very respectfully. Then he took 2 eye and 4 purple crystal scorpions and set out to set up a stall. After Lin Changqing completed the basic training tasks, he left Qian Valley and flew directly to the Sutra Library of the Inner Gate. Because Xianshu sect has a god-transforming cultivator, he wanted to find out if there are any records of other immortal cultivation in the sect. Of course, this is also with a 1 in 10,000 chance of success. After all, if there is a hope to go back, he still wants to go back. At that time, at most, he can use Bailey Jia Alonghe and take the 3 members of the Li family with him. Chapter 674. Someone asks for a meeting. The place was a bit far, and it took about 2 hours to reach the destination. Here, 5 points of sect contribution points were required for 1 hour. However, Lin Changqing didn't care. After registering, he directly paid 20 points. Then he rushed to the area of biographies and secrets, and was fascinated by it. He found that the big sects still had this advantage. At least there were much more biographies and secrets than ordinary small families. But he came every day for 5 or 6 consecutive days until he finished reading all the books in this area. But there were no records about other immortal cultivation worlds. Instead, Lin Changqing had a more detailed understanding of the Xinghe world he was in. And he also knew a lot of secrets that he couldn't get in touch with at ordinary times, which was considered to have increased his knowledge and background. Until the evening, when Li Qingshuan returned to Qian Valley. He told him that he had found someone who specialized in tinkering with sect contribution points through a friend he knew. But that person asked to meet Lin Changqing, and was very anxious, so he directly agreed to meet the next day. Lin Changqing didn't think too much about it. He had been to the trading square to support Lin Changqing before. It was not strange for others to know him. So when he knew someone wanted to see him, he didn't think too much and immediately agreed to meet at the trading square tomorrow. He had already decided to take Li Xiangting with him tomorrow. She would definitely like it. At most, when he went to exchange contribution points, he would let the two siblings go to set up the stall first. Sure enough, when he went back and told Li Xiangting about this, she immediately cheered with joy. Then she worked harder in the evening and made Lin Changqing feel very happy. It can be seen how much she was looking forward to it. The next day, after the three of them completed their respective training tasks, they left Qian Valley together. This time they were familiar with the route, because it was still early before the agreed time, so Lin Changqing went to set up the stall. He and Li Xiangting went to visit the street stalls. In fact, Lin Changqing himself was also very keen on buying things from street stalls. He had many good things on him before, and they all got them this way. However, after they had been browsing for a while, they were a little disappointed, because there were many things in it that they had seen last time. So after looking for a while, Lin Changqing didn't get anything, only Li Xiangting bought some spiritual plant seeds. It was estimated that the agreed time was almost up, so Lin Changqing sent her back to Lin Changqing and let the two of them stay together. Then he went to the appointment. This time, the person Lin Changqing found was a little strange, and he actually asked to meet him. There must be something going on, but he didn't want to waste his brain power to guess it himself. He just went to meet him and he would know what was going on. Anyway, he was not worried that someone would harm him in the sect, not to mention the cultivators of the same level. Even a higher level purple mansion cultivator would not be able to take him down in a short time, so he was really not worried at all. Arriving at the agreed location, a shop called Healthily Pavilion, Lin Changqing just walked in. The waiter inside immediately came up to greet him and said, "Welcome to Healthily Pavilion. Master. What do you need?" Lin Changqing said directly. "A fellow disciple named Zhuang asked me to meet him here. I wonder if he has explained this matter." The waiter suddenly realized, "So you are Master Zhuang's friend. He's already waiting for you in the private room upstairs. Let me lead the way for you." Lin Changqing nodded, and the young man began to lead the way in front. The two came to a private room on the third floor. When he entered, he didn't recognize the two people inside. However, he noticed that the cultivation of these two people was not weak. They were all in the state of great perfection of foundation building. As long as they survived the thunder tribulation, they would be purple mansion cultivators. I don't know what these two people want to see him for. When they saw Lin Changqing coming in, the two people inside immediately stood up to greet him. The person on the left spoke first. "I am Zhuang Weitao. Welcome to Junior Brother Lin. It's great that I finally get to see the little thunder god today." Lin Changqing also quickly said, "Hello, Senior Brother Zhuang, and the Senior Brother. Junior Brother, I only know a rough palm thunder spell, but I dare not be called the little thunder god." The person on the right also responded, "I am Liu Beixin, the owner of Fen Pavilion, and I am also the middleman between the two of you. Junior Brother Lin, don't be modest first. We have already known your strength. You are definitely worthy of the nickname of the little thunder god. Come, take a seat, don't just talk, come and try my third level Minxin tea first." At this time, he was more certain that these two people must have something that needed him, Lin Changqing. But at this time, he could only take a seat first. As soon as he sat down, Liu Beixing sent a cup of spiritual tea over, and then gave Zhuang Weitao a cup. Although he hadn't picked it up to drink, Lin Changqing had already smelled a cold tea fragrance. Zhuang Weitao, on the other hand, was a little impatient to drink it all, and then showed an intoxicated expression. Including Liu Beixin, the host, who had almost the same expression after drinking it. However, the situation is unknown now. Although Lin Changqing is skilled and bold, he will not drink things of unknown origin casually. So he did not touch the cup of spiritual tea, but just pretended to pick it up and tasted it, and then put it back. But no matter what, he did not forget the purpose of coming here this time. So he said directly, "Brother Zhuang, I want to exchange 50,000 sect contribution points. I wonder if there is any problem." Zhuang Weitao listened and said with a smile, "It seems that Junior Brother Lin is also impatient. However, I like junior brothers like this straightforward personality. 50,000 sect contribution points are no problem. I can exchange them for you now, and the exchange ratio is 1:6. I wonder if junior brother Lin is satisfied, but when Lin Changqing heard it, he couldn't help frowning. It was not that the price was too expensive, but that the price was too cheap. You know, taking a small advantage will lead to a big loss. So he shook his head and said, Brother Zhuang, let's go with the normal price. The price you offered is obviously wrong, it's much cheaper than the normal market price. But if that's the case, I dare not exchange it here with Brother Zhuang. When Zhuang Chuantao heard this, he couldn't help but look up to Lin Changqing. But he also knew that what he was going to talk about next might not be so easy. Chapter 675 Secret Realm. Zhuang Chuantao also knew that he couldn't buy off Lin Changqing with small favors. So he spoke again and said, okay then. We'll exchange at the lowest normal ratio of 10:68. That should be okay this time, right? Upon hearing this, Lin Changqing immediately agreed, and then poured out the 340,000 low-grade spirit stones that he had prepared in advance from his storage bag. Zhuang Chuantao didn't count them, but asked for Lin Changqing's identity jade card, and then directly transferred 50,000 sect contribution points to it. After returning the identity jade card to Lin Changqing, he put away the spirit stones on the table. At this time, Lin Changqing had already checked that the number of sect contribution points on the jade card was correct and completely matched. In this way, the contribution points for exchanging for Li Xiangting's skills have been collected. If there's still time, he can go and exchange it directly. And he doesn't want to stay here now, because he knows that if he wants to take the initiative, he can't let them lead him by the nose. So he said to the two of them, thank you, brothers. My Taoist partner is still outside, so I won't stay here for long. Next time, if I need to exchange contribution points, I will come to bother you again. That's all for today. I'll take my leave first. After saying that, when he was about to get up and leave, Liu Beisheng said quickly, Brother Lin, wait a minute. Zhuang Chuantao also said, Brother Lin, I think you've figured out that we too have something to do with you. We specially invited you to meet this time because we actually want to cooperate with you. At this point, Lin Changqing knew that he couldn't just leave, so he had to sit down again. Then he looked at them and asked, if that's the case, then please tell me, brothers, what exactly do you want to cooperate with me on? Zhuang and Lu looked at each other, and then Zhuang Chuantao said, Brother Lin, do you know my Ji Leizong? Lin Changqing couldn't help but feel a little strange when they mentioned Ji Leizong. But he still nodded and said, I know it, I just know that it was a subsidiary of our Xianshu sect. But in the great war between good and evil more than 1,000 years ago, wasn't the Jilei sect ambushed and destroyed by the Wunhan sect? The two were surprised to hear that he actually knew about this sect after all. They only knew about the existence of this sect through his information. In fact, they didn't know that Lin Changqing was just a blind cat that met a dead mouse. He was able to know about this sect because he had read biographies and secrets in the Sutra library these days. Zhuang Chuantao nodded and continued, since junior brother Lin knows about this sect, that's easy to say. Although the Jilei sect was destroyed, some of the secret realms in their hands were not destroyed together. Although some were robbed and finally fell into the hands of the Zhuhai sect, some were taken over by our sect, but we recently got a jade slip, which records the news of a low-level secret realm with thunder attribute. And after comparison, we found that this secret realm may have originally belonged to the Leiji sect, and it is very likely to be the secret realm of the Leiji sect. That's why it can be a fish that slips through the net. And according to the time calculation, this secret realm will be opened in about 3 months. Therefore, we would like to invite junior brother Lin to explore this secret realm together. After Lin Changqing heard this, his first reaction was to refuse. There were too many unreasonable things in it, so he didn't want to cause this trouble. So he refused directly and said, I'm very sorry, brothers. I'm not interested in the secret realm you mentioned. But I promise that I will definitely keep the secret for you two brothers. If there is nothing else, I will take my leave first. Zhuang and Lu were dumbfounded when they heard his direct refusal. Liu Beisheng was still quick to react and asked directly, does junior brother Lin think there's any problem here? Why are you so afraid? Zhuang Chuantao also said, yes, junior brother Lin. If there is any problem, we can talk about it openly. There is no need to leave directly. If you don't believe what we said just now, you can take out the jade slit and let you see it yourself. Lin Changqing waved his hand directly. He was not interested in the jade slit they talked about. But he knew that if he didn't explain it clearly, they would not let him go so easily. So he said, "Okay. Then I will tell you my opinion." Liu Beisheng quickly said, "Junior brother Lin, please speak, the two of us are all ears." Zhuang Chuantao also nodded repeatedly, obviously expressing the same meaning. Lin Changqing continued, "I don't know why such a secret realm fell into your hands more than 1,000 years ago. Just say that in a secret realm, if there really is more than 1,000 years without a cultivator coming to clean up the monsters inside, then this 1,000 years is enough for the second and third level monsters inside to be promoted to the fourth level or above. And even if you are lucky and there are no monsters above the fourth level, there must be a third level, right? Two brothers, do you know what the end is when facing a third level thunder monster? The end is that it will give you one or several divine thunders from 3 or 4 miles away, and you won't even have time to use your defensive spiritual tools. I won't say what the end is, everyone knows it well. What if you encounter 2 or even more than 3 at the same time? So if this is really the case, then you say, if we, the foundation building cultivators, go in, are we simply going to never come back? Hearing what Lin Changqing said, Zhuang, Lu, and the other two were silent, but their brows frowned. Now that he has come to this point, Lin Changqing simply continued. So he continued, on the other hand, if this is a trap set by someone against you two, if you rush in rashly like this, the result will definitely be a life or death situation. So no matter what you say, I will not participate in this secret realm. Also, in view of the care that the two brothers have just given me, I will give you a suggestion. You can consider handing it over to the sect. This way, you can gain the trust and reward of the sect, and you don't have to take any risks. It can be said to kill 3 birds with 1 stone. Of course, this is just my personal opinion. How to deal with the secret realm specifically still needs to be considered by the two brothers. But I still say that I promise not to leak any information about this secret realm, so please rest assured, the two brothers. I'm leaving, and the two brothers, please do as you please. After speaking, Lin Changqing got up and left. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.